All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Excess Exceed. This is Gearface. I'm so pleased to be joined once again by friend of the show, D. D, thank you so
Hi,
much for being here.
my pleasure.
Always a pleasure to talk to you. Today, we have the honor, privilege, responsibility to talk a little bit about Seth from Undernight, a character in Exceed, a fighting card game for two players. That is the extent to which we will say anything about Seth prior to the beginning of the lesson. I think Seth's kind of cool. I'm excited about him. I know he has a little bit of an interesting reputation in the community. Um, so really excited to learn a little bit about him. Couple disclaimers, as always, before we get started. Number one, um, Exceed is a game that you should play for fun. On this show, we're going to be talking about playing to win. To that end, we might describe some things that don't sound super fun to you. If that's the case, don't play that way. Not only is that kind of a self-care thing, where you'll have more fun playing, it will also probably make you better in the long run because you'll keep playing Exceed more. You'll think about it more if you're playing to have fun.
hmm
So do that. If it so happens that the things that we're talking about are fun to you, great. Play Seth then.
Yeah,
Disclaimer number two is we don't know everything. D knows a lot. I know very little. We average out to, a reasonable amount of knowledge between us. Um, uh, Take everything that we're saying with a grain of salt. Obviously, Exceed is not a solved game. We're going to be talking about it kind of as though it was. Always do this, never do that. Um, None of that stuff is 100% true all the time. There's plenty of room for expression with Seth. He's
mhm.
hardly a solved. He's hardly a particularly deeply explored character, is my understanding. So find your own line of play with Seth. Tell us why we're wrong about him. Um, uh, Boost my engagement numbers.
Yes.
Um,
Remember, every time we make an absolute claim, that absolute claims are always wrong.
Always, always, always wrong. 100% of the time. Um, yeah. With all that said, though, please, D, I'm dying to know a little bit about Seth.
Excellent. All right. So, I just had a refresher earlier today, which I think was a good decision. It's been a little bit since I'd played him. At the start of the game, I went, "Why do I, of all people, play this of all characters?" But by the end of the game, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's why." So I'm feeling more into it. This is not Seth. Leave. We'll use you later. Anyway. So let's start with character identity. You have a great character ability. It's called Soulseth.
Okay. Oh
Um,
wait, I've had this lesson before. D, hold up.
oh
You
yeah,
and I,
sorry.
you and I've talked about Byakuya before. This is Seth, different character.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Do you
Soulseth.
want to restart or anything? Oh, okay, never mind. No, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. It's the same card.
Okay.
That's a lie. That is an unjustified lie. These cards are meaningfully different because you actually will use the attack sometimes, which
Okay.
means it's not very similar at all to Byakuya's. But anyway, this is not that lesson. So Soul's Oath is the same boost, however. So before you may seal this to advance, retreat, push, or pull one. This means that your effective range for whatever the heck you're doing is extended by -1 and +1, right? Your minimum range goes down by 1, your maximum range goes up by 1, effectively.
Right.
This works even against things like focus, because if you can't move them, you can move yourself. Which is particularly useful because a lot of people will, like to play focus in situations where it's safe. For example, at range 1, focus is perfectly safe unless your opponent can just play spike, retreat 1, and stab you.
Can just back up
Um,
and spike, of course.
yeah. So it is good in virtually every position for at least one reason. It is a fantastic boost. It is a boost you get to play or get to use only twice per game because you only have 2 copies of it, and it does seal itself if you use that before effect.
Right.
If you don't use it for that effect, well, then during cleanup you can spend a life to sustain it, so it stays in play, threatening your opponent for the next strike.
Right.
This is a valuable source of defensive utility and just generally a good way to confirm hits to make sure that whatever you want to play lands. It is actually it would be a gross overstatement to say that this is like the core of the character, the heart of the character, the foundation of the character. I do think it is like an extremely notable and important effect because of what this does. You don't have a particularly impressive defensive kit, but if you put this out, then you can stare at the opponent from ranges 1 to 5 and say, I can interact with you. I can play a range 1 spike, a range 2 grasp, a range 3 cross, a range 5 dive. Like, I
Right.
can do a lot of things that other people can't do.
Your range 4 dive is a mid speed now. Or it has its mid speed properties of
Yeah,
beating slows
because you
if
can
you need it
advance and
to.
cross over. Yep.
Yeah. So in the Byakuya lesson, and I think that we did spend an immense amount of time on that lesson talking about specifically Soul's Oath because of how incredibly important. I think on the written guide it comes up like 59 times. I did a word
That
search
sounds right.
for it. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big part of the game. Um, Seth's Soul's Oath, exactly the same boost, used in it sounds like pretty similar ways. Is it as like
It is not as centralizing.
it's not as much of Seth as Soul's Oath is of Byakuya.
And I will show you why immediately. Before we even talk about the rest of the character, please read this boost.
Ah,
And now
okay.
read this boost,
Okay,
which he has two copies of.
so it's less that Soul's Oath, like certainly Soul's Oath didn't get worse on Seth. It's that he has other things that he can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's you performing lots of movement effects is Seth life.
Okay.
Like you have Soul's Oath, a movement instant boost, an attack that moves, a movement instant boost, an attack that moves, a movement boost. The attack doesn't actually move in this case. Movement boost, and attack that moves across the entire board.
Right.
There's one card that's an exception to all this, which we'll cover last for that very reason.
Okay.
But generally speaking, you are very, very mobile in a lot of little ways, in a lot of options. So you're not likely to be deprived of any mobility.
Okay.
And that's
So
on top of being a season 6 character who already has a little bit of extra mobility.
yeah, sure. Tons of little bits of movement between respect and air dash in the
That makes sense.
normals. So I'm probably going to be choosing also I can't really let it pass that one of these cards is it looks like you like might have like reprinted Tinker Knight, like the extra big copy of the card for some reason. I'm not sure why there's such a big sweep. I'm sure it'll come up later. Or it's just a weird tabletop simulator glitch. But
It'll
okay, good to know. But the what I'm hearing from this is that I'm probably going to be able to choose like the terms of my engagement pretty like freely as Seth. I can, having lots of movement means I can use my opponent's turn to set my own range. Having movement boosts means that I can use the board state to make things safer, more threatening. Like there's a lot of flexibility and utility in a lot of ways to move. Is that pretty accurate? Okay.
that's pretty accurate. There's so I'll go ahead and spoil it, which is that by the end of my game earlier, the thing that I realized is what I like. Well, okay, sorry. The first thing I like about Seth is that I can draw a lot of cards, and it's fun. The second thing that I like about him is the last card that we're going to talk about. But the reason that I consistently enjoy him, even if things go horribly wrong in those regards, is every decision is deceptively technical. A lot of these tools are strong, and you need them. These tools are things that allow you to go, oh, in any given board state, I can find the thing that I will play now that makes relevant whatever it is that I need to be relevant. I can play this and say, yes, this is exactly what I needed. I can do this and say, yes, this is exactly what I needed. So you're not they don't let you move around freely, but they ensure that you will always have the tools to move where you need to move.
Sure. And I mean, Exceed being a resource management game, I'm using up. Certainly Soul's Oath is kind of emblematic of this because the cost to sustain it versus the sealing it to spend it. But like, I'm always going to be committing to something by using the option, but I'll probably have the options to put towards that commitment if I need them.
And so that redundancy in his toolkit means that like you will always have some kind of movement source. Like you don't need to worry about paying force to move probably ever, which is something I don't say about very many characters.
Right.
I like the walk action. I think it's actually often a very important fundamental action. And I don't think I took it earlier. And I don't think I take it very often because I just have a lot of other ways to move that provide some other benefit that's almost always worth it. Whether it's mix up to close a retreat 1 and draw and strike, or a move 2 take another action boost, or just saying I'll move during the next strike with one of my various effects that does that.
Right. That's already on the field, sure. Now, obviously the other part of the resource management game of Exceed is that by using a card as an important boost, you are depriving yourself of the no doubt equally important and great attack on which the boost is printed.
All right, you're setting me up to shoot you down.
I might be, and I'll admit that it's a little bit of a risk because I don't know Seth very well, but I know him by reputation, and the reputation I know him by is that his attacks are not as good as his boosts.
All right, so that there is a lot of truth to that. But also Seth deliberately subverts that because, so to begin with, here's the card that makes that true. This attack is it says hit draw 3.
Mm.
Um, I'm kind of sold to start with. That's already exciting enough. It's a mid speed if you initiate. It's a 1/3/4, so it's under curve. It's kind of a mid speed if you respond, which is to say that if your opponent initiates at range 1, it's speed 7, which means they still win
Right.
if they play on curve.
Right. It loses speed ties and therefore loses to fast things, and therefore it's a mid speed in that way.
Yes, it is. It is. However, it is still speed 7, which is often going to be faster than what other people are throwing around. So they have to be
Sure.
playing exactly on curve to actually cover it at range 1.
Right.
And it's going to be pretty common that you'll be able to hit this at not range 1 because you have Soul's Oath or other movement in play.
Right.
But your, I think, probably strongest movement tool, even though Soul's Oath is a. It's hard for me to say which of these is stronger because this one lets you be, move the opponent around and it stays in play even if you get stuns.
Right.
This one you do have to outspeed, but it is a phenomenally strong boost. Like advance or retreat, 1 or 2 is an insane amount of movement, an insane amount of options to have during the before timing. So you're not even committing to it in advance.
Right.
But the attack is very, very good. It doesn't do much damage, but it draws 3 cards in a game, in particular in a character in a season, which values its turns. I take a lot of change cards actions in Exceed and in Season 6 in particular, and Seth is no exception to that. But, hitting with this is digging through my deck during a strike. That's one fewer turn that I have to give the opponent.
And conceivably that means that you could be taking effectively a pretty good change cards action on your opponent's turn.
Yep.
And like sort of
fairly commonly, yeah.
Yeah, the upside of having card draw or movement or anything like that on a strike is that strikes are things that you can do when your opponent has the play. So we have legitimate reason to use this versus, I mean, I don't know how good this boost is yet because we haven't finished the Seth lesson. If it is comparable in power to Soul's Oath, I have had the Byakuya lesson. So that's high praise for a mid speed that draws you some cards.
Yes, it is. All right. Now, I said that Seth kind of subverts that pattern. Banishing Confusion, which, as the name suggests, is a bit confusing. This says 4/5/4, but this is dive. It's dive that doesn't hit at range 1 or 2 or 3. But it's dive because it says after advance 3. So it is specifically range 4 dive.
Right. So no mid speed properties to it.
It doesn't work at close ranges, even if the opponent's cornered.
Right. It's specifically an on curve poke at 4.
Yep. Okay. Does have 5 printed damage, which is chunky. That is the amount of damage that dive does, but that is notably high damage for the normals. Let's not forget that 5 is actually meaningfully significant amounts of damage.
Sure.
And then it says, if this hits, add the top card of your deck to your gauge, add this to your boost area as a continuous boost to sustain it. So you get Soul's Oath by hitting with this.
You get Soul's Oath without having to spend the turn boosting Soul's Oath.
Right.
Okay.
So you're not giving up one to play the other. If you decide to play the attack, then it's because you are certain that you are going to land it and play the boost. Okay. Which, on that note, here's an absolute statement. Never play this attack if you are not certain that you're going to hit, because that's throwing away a Soul's Oath, and you don't do that.
Sure. Okay. And if well, I was going to say so to the theme of being able to do something on your opponent's turn that's valuable, like our card draw over here, we have this idea that, well, I'll sneak in a Soul's Oath on my opponent's turn, but now at range 4, this is a mid speed, right? It is no longer on curve. I can't actually guarantee that anymore.
Yeah, you will almost never be able to respond with this. You may in some rare cases be able to EX it in response or something, but in practice you are almost always going to have to initiate in order to make sure that you land the hit. You should not be responding with the stack.
But if it's my turn, Soul's Oath is right here. So is the use case for this attack that I also, in addition to Soul's Oath, I also need 5 damage and some gauge fairly safely?
Yes, because this is other. Well, let's look at our printed damage numbers, other than the card that I set aside.
Right.
3, 3, 1, 3, 6 for 3 gauge.
Yep.
And 5.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of damage.
Right. Okay. So that actually that use case that I described as sort of intentionally sort of narrow is actually not that narrow at all, because we're going to need that damage.
Yeah. I whacked the opponent. walk into a sweep and I say, okay, cool, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and actually jump to that now because let's talk about the normal interactions. Transgressing convicts, I guess, probably be the verb form. It beats range 1 cross. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Cool.
Not in the habit of winning things. This card,
Yeah.
it seems like
Yeah.
it's more about drawing a lot of cards.
Exactly. It's a mid speed in the same style as things like Heavy Mob Cemetery, where it's entirely possible that it wins a strike just by drawing a lot of cards, not by murdering the opponent.
Sure, this
So,
is a really good way to lose is to trade down productively, basically.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you say, okay, my opponent got engaged, and I'm a little sad about that. But in all likelihood, I spent 3 life and drew 3 cards.
Right. That's a
Or
pretty good way to
something
lose a strike.
numerically equivalent. Like that's pretty okay. Like and you do want the cards because turns. But all right. Let's look at Dead Space. We haven't talked about this one at all, but like let's just look at the stack shape. Range 1 with no before effect, so it is a range 1 speed 5. So that is under curve. 3 power, hit gain advantage. All right, that's nice. So this one drew 3, this one gains advantage. And then after advance 3, which allows it to sometimes evade focus.
Yep.
So
So the awesome this is a mid speed, right? It's a mid speed that beats us slow for
Yep.
1 damage.
Yep.
So not
That's
great.
correct.
Not great
Yep.
so far.
Yeah, you got advantage. It also beats the comical responding range 1 assault if you initiate at range 1 and they respond with assault.
Yep. Yep.
That could hypothetically
Famously
happen.
great defensive card, range 1 assault.
Yep. All right. Cool. We've described already that this only really is relevant at range 4, and therefore the only normals that we are going to even be considering are dive, which the opponent probably won't respond with, sweep, focus, which both crush it. It also loses to range 4 assault, but in a much less important way. And briefly, let's look at captive segment, which is also dive, albeit a much weirder dive. Sorry, let me be clear. It is also a moving in move. It has after advance 3. You should not read this as being anything like actual dive because it only has 1 power and it has speed 6, which are both pretty important distinctions.
In many ways, not very much like dive, but in that it is a range 4 attack that I think where you're going with this is that it loses to slows.
Yes.
It's dive-like.
Yep. All right, so we have a before effect that lets you play a boost from your hand, which is going to be a before pusher pull plus 1 power boost.
Right.
That's what the ultra boosts were that we looked at a minute ago.
Right.
Which again, I'm going a little fast because I'm trying to create a very clear, cogent impression, and we'll go do a more detailed breakdown.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense.
So 4/1/6, so 1 damage, but you advance 3 as an after effect. So again, you're going to walk into any slows. Abyssal Geometry does have range 3 don't hit you, but it only hits at range 2, which means that if you are like, you might dodge a slow by spending a gauge and missing with the attack, but if you're trading with a slow, you're trading down.
Sure.
At range 2, you trade massively down. And then this one, which does a lot of cool things, and it's a wonderful card that I absolutely love, and also it's only 6 power.
Right, which is not enough to stun slows.
Yeah, it should now be clear why this is this big.
Yeah.
Because it beats everything you do.
Everything you do. So several months ago, I had a Gabrek lesson with Moriarty, who had a similar sort of like, oh, tough luck, buddy game where I played a card at random from Gabrek's deck and he played Grasp, and I lost.
Yeah, I mean, if Gabrek played one of Gabrek's cards, then Gabrek lost.
Exactly. Yeah. So the issue with that, I feel like in terms of comparison, is that losing to Grasp kind of sucks. Losing to Sweep sucks a lot.
Yes. Losing to Sweep is losing 2 strikes at once for the most part.
Yeah. That's a very bad card to have a weakness to. It's a lot of times like a character that would otherwise be kind of middling is sort of carried by how hard it is to sweep them.
Yeah.
This is a very important card in Exceed.
Yep. It is the king of the normals, and it has been long since crowned as such, and nothing has ever really dethroned it, but it definitely shines throughout most of season 6. That is no exception. If you play sweep into Seth, generally speaking, Seth is sad and it gets swept. And with his low damage, that's a problem. All right. Now that I've painted this picture, we're going to start here.
Okay.
372.
That is a very like evolutionarily specific lineage that we've found for this card. I feel like, because I think I know where you're going with this. This does one
Yeah.
thing. It seems like
It does one thing.
Yeah.
It does one thing, which is at range 3, it murders sweep. It also
Yes.
defeats focus. But range 3 is a more common range for sweep. And it also says, okay, you thought I was playing any of my other cards, and you played sweep. Die.
Right. And there's a pretty strong, just by the fact that the sweep card is pretty big, my opponent's hand is always going to be on top of it. There's a pretty strong reason to expect my opponent to play sweep at range 3 into me.
Yes, because you're playing Seth.
Yes.
Unironically, it's going, okay, yeah. It is also possible for this to hit at range 2 or 4 or 1 or 5, depending on what boost you have in play, mind you. But the printed range is 3. I have certainly played this at range 1 and hit an opponent's focus with it and just walked out and stabbed him. Or, I guess, headbutted them? I don't know.
Hard to tell, really.
Yeah, for a while, I think Petersonian was the one who first noted this. We didn't really read that these were the knife light trails. We just thought he had like a jetpack.
He's had like a jetpack coming out of his jeans.
Exactly.
That
He's got
rules.
thrusters. That's what I thought was happening for a while. Anyway, all right. So, having given you only a vague glossary and showing some general shapes and patterns and things, this is the card in your deck that is not like any other card in your deck. It is the one card that is the other side of the mix-up. The mix-up is, am I playing anything else or am I playing this?
Right. Okay.
Of course, you also have this. Don't forget this.
Yeah.
But everybody expects to get spiked sometimes. You're going to get spiked sometimes. When you hit somebody with this and you hit them with it, they will remember it. And they will question what character they were playing against, because nobody knows that Seth has this. You can play against somebody 3 times and play it each game. They will still not really remember that he has this because it's incomprehensible.
Sure.
It doesn't match anything else. It's great.
And the mental damage alone of losing to a 3/7/2 no guard, no armor has to be significant. Maybe like temporary amnesia is a symptom of getting hit by it. There's a lot of possibilities here. Yeah.
That would explain it.
So,
because it falls out of people's minds and to a shocking extent, even if they're trying to think of it. And I guess the actual reason for that is because there is no time at which you can play this where it will not look like you're a madman.
Sure.
This card is never safe.
It's the definition of a call out tool. And this is interesting because like a lot of times a call out tool is a player read, right? It's something that you've you have an idea of what your opponent's doing and you're going to call them out specifically. I know your playstyle in particular, Dean, knows this very well. This is interesting because it's a call out tool that's enabled almost exclusively by how big a weakness the rest of your kit has.
Yes. Which does highlight actually the main weakness of this card. If your opponent doesn't know Seth, this card is actually worse.
Yeah, this requires them to have
the average wild swing.
Right. Okay. So first, beat them with all of your cool boosts. And then once they're like, hey, wait a minute, I watched the first 23 minutes of Gearface and D's XS Exceed lesson, and I know that sweep is really good. Then you have to bust out piercing penetration.
Just so.
Okay.
Just so.
Okay.
Yep. There are a couple other things that you'll be doing that will allow you to beat sweep. But they are mostly involving either normals or the ultra boosts.
Sure.
Now, this is at range 3. You look for all the world like you're playing anything else, and you play this, and you sometimes will get stunned out, and that's fine. But if you lost to something other than sweep, you lost to something other than sweep.
Right.
And that is the fact of it. The only problem is now you've lost your thing that beats sweep, and that is a serious problem.
Sure. Okay.
Let's talk about consequences, though.
Yeah. Okay.
If this hits, at the top card of your deck to your gauge, and now this previous area is a continuous boost and sustain it. So now the next strike, after you presumably murder their sweep,
right?
You cannot stun, you cannot kill, but your power is 7.
Okay, so you can do a lot of damage, and hopefully you don't get hit back.
Yep.
Right.
We were over here looking at how our power numbers are low, and we found where it all went. It's on this card. It's over here and over here. This card has all your power. Both sides of
this card. Okay.
Yep. Because this is a card that says, hey, you have a 7 power focus. You weren't going to stun them anyway. You presumably you aren't currently caring about killing them at the point at which you're playing this. cool. You just had +3 power and focus at basically no cost. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
+3, +4 power cross. I didn't care about stunning you. I'm leaving.
I'm leaving. You're probably not hitting me back anyway.
Yeah. I did. People can make reads on that in various cases. If you're at range 1 and you play a cross and go, my 7 power cross is safe from everything, and they play dive, then they will hit you back for 5 because you didn't stun them.
Right.
So, be cognizant of things like that, because this does enable counterplay that otherwise doesn't exist when it just says, hey, the opponent has stun immunity.
Sure. You have to make sure that cross really is leaving before you can actually make use of this. So this is the second card that we've talked about quite quickly here, that we can't really play the is this an attack or is this a boost game, because it's both.
Yeah.
And sort of skipping ahead for a second here, I do see that there's a similar kind of text on my ultras here. So clearly there's a theme with this. My question is, for these, and obviously we'll have to evaluate these individually, is this something that I play? Is this boost something that I play in neutral? Is this boost something that I play? Obviously, Soul's Oath is, sure.
I mean, Soul's Oath is just a good neutral boost, yeah.
Right. but am I? Is a big part of Seth's game plan landing these hits to action compress his way into these good boosts, or are these good boosts good and therefore I should spend my turn doing them?
He action compresses his ultra boosts almost without exception. They are designed to work that way, and it is a strong enough. It's one thing to say something is obviously designed to work away, and then it's a different thing to say, and that's a good idea. Do that. Right. But his ultra boosts are like very, very strong. They are good in neutral. If you need them in neutral, you can play them in neutral. But you would prefer to say, I'm not going to spend a turn playing that boost. I'll spend a turn playing this other boost, and then later I will get this into play after resolving the attack.
Okay.
One ultra in particular, but we'll come back to that. But yeah, this one, you can sometimes play this in neutral. It usually requires you to have another boost in play already so that you know that you're going to hit, because you don't want this to be wasted. That's another one of those, like, everything is kind of technical, everything is kind of difficult. So you need to be aware that wasting this consumes an immense amount of power. And I mean the red number power.
The red number power, sure. Similar to what we were talking about with Vanishing Confusion. Like the rest of my kit is telling me that 7 is a lot of is going to be a lot of my damage.
Yeah, if you waste this by throwing this in neutral to present a threat that your opponent doesn't respect, and then they just sort of leave, and you're like, okay, well, I guess they played cross, and okay. Then now you need to go play things like normals or your 5 damage or your 6 damage ultra and say, all right, I need to make up the damage, because I was expecting to get, I was expecting this card to have as much value as like a +3 or 4 power boost. And if it didn't get me at least that much, I am now struggling for damage.
Sure. Okay.
I remember looking at my opponent when I had, I think, 16 cards left in my deck, and they had 16 life, and going, yeah, damage is looking kind of thin. Which numerically doesn't make any sense.
No, I mean,
it's how it feels.
One of the things that I figured out a little while ago when I was just kind of looking over Exceed cards, I thought that sweep was so big again when I scrolled over here. Sorry. Is that so? I got 2 copies of every normal in my deck. If I add up the damage that every normal deals, I get 30. Yeah. I can kill somebody with a quarter of my deck, and
I mean, you get more than 30, but yeah.
Yeah. One copy of each normal. I mean.
Yes, one of each normal is 30, yes.
Yeah, it gives me 30. I have 2 copies of the normals. I also have all my specials. The idea that half my deck left doesn't have the damage to kill my opponent is weird. So, Seth needs these, and this, too, as a way to just make up the numbers.
Yeah, his... When you play things as, I need this specific tool at this specific time, I'm defusing the situation, or I'm doing this very particular thing, you will often find that it doesn't involve dealing very much damage when you're Seth.
Right.
Which means that you then go, okay, my damage has to come from somewhere, and normals are great, but everybody's got normals. I'm not going to assume that I have average expected value more than my opponents. I need to make it up somewhere. This is the main source of number. This is the main source of my opponent's life is being reduced.
Okay.
And it will often come at a cost. This boost will often, if your opponent is canny and paying attention, you may well find that this boost says, I hit them for 3 more damage, but they got a free something on me. They hit me with assaults or dive in some way that they otherwise wouldn't have. They played something that has no guard that they were just waiting for a chance to play, that they couldn't make it safe, but now you made it safe for them because you gave them stun immunity.
Right.
But as long as you got your damage in,
You
it was probably
you
worth
are
it.
you're relying on the fact that 7 damage for you is more important than whatever the positioning upside or consistency upside they got out of that dive was going to be. And odds are it was, because 7 is a lot.
Yep.
Okay.
The chances are, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It
And
yeah.
and I mean, the other thing I had a question about this card in particular is the way that you're describing it as like the call out option, the mix up option. Uh, Typically on lessons with you, you are talking about like preserving the threat of this card at all costs.
Yeah. And I am
What?
not describing that here because I legitimately think people don't want to, don't remember to, and even if even if this lesson here became the Bible of Seth play and everyone knew how to play against Seth because of it, people would still usually not play against this because it turns out usually you shouldn't.
Right.
Like usually this is not the thing he's playing. It is up to the Seth player to make it count, which means it is the Seth player's job to make sure he can actually play it when it matters and hit the opponent and get value out of it.
Okay, so this isn't, in your experience at least, this isn't something that you can hold over your opponent's head as a threat, saying you can't play sweep into me. In reality, what's happening is everything else is yelling louder. You can play sweep into me. That's why sweep is so big in your hand.
Yep.
To the point, and like all of these cards working in aggregate is going to outshout this one, even if you're holding it over as a threat. So just kind of play this card sometimes to
Yeah.
call out the sweep.
That has consistently been my experience. I play this card. I play this card, and routinely I play this card and I have it hits. Not every time, but with a significant majority of the time it's successful because most of the time they're going to play a thing that loses to it because they want to play a thing that beats everything else.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Conversely, most of the time that I play these, I am expecting to be at significant risk of trading down, and I know that's happening, and it happens, and that's
Right.
life.
Okay, and you're and for various reasons that I'm sure we will get into, you are okay with losing to that, trading down on that strike, maybe not losing that strike.
On one strike, I hit for 3, and they hit for 6, and I lose a random card. On another strike, I hit for 7, and they hit for nothing.
Right.
I outswept them. Right?
Yeah.
Like we talked
Yeah.
about how sweep is winning 2 strikes. If I beat your sweep clean, great. I've won 2 strikes, and you won 0 out of 2 strikes that you wanted to win.
Right.
So that value swing is fantastic.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So don't worry about confirming this. Don't worry about like there's no way to boost this to be safe.
You will not be able to make it safe. It is
Yeah.
not worth it.
It's a call out option, period. And it will work
Yes.
sometimes as a call out option because of the rest of your kit. Okay.
Yep. Yes, because everything else in your kit is has such problems with sweep. All right. I would now like to note what appears to be the most obvious way to make this attack better, which I think is a terrible idea. You technically have a character ability. That's not fair. You have a character ability. It is interesting. So you might recognize some of this text. So action strike, your attack has +1 speed, and you can't stun and you can't kill.
Right.
So often in Exceed, the reason you want to be faster than the opponent is so that you can stun things that don't have enough guards to not get stunned by whatever the heck you're doing.
Sure.
This says no, that's not what we're doing here. This ability, use under a doctor's orders, use under strict supervision, use cautiously and with great care, because this ability is often going to delight your opponent. The default line, I want to talk a lot more about how to use it effectively in much. It's actually pretty interesting. There's a lot of cool situations in which to use it. By default, if you're just picking up Seth and you want to know what's my most brain dead way to think about this, it applies to focus, dive, and cross, and nothing else.
The things that are either not going to ever stun something by going first, or that have a dodge implicitly or explicitly printed on the card.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, and the only reason the focus is in that list is to confuse the opponent.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
it's to make them less likely to play, or it allows sorry, if you are playing that way, then at range 3 you probably can't be beat. At range 1 range 2 you probably can't be beat because you played the cross. At range 1, they might very cleverly catch your cross, but if you play a focus, then they just dove over you or they played projectile or something.
Right. Right. Okay.
But yeah. So it is specifically kind of a mix-up with cross, but not a very strong one.
Sure. Okay.
It is also occasionally humorous, although not necessarily good, to play 5 turns in a row because you play a speed 5 that gains advantage that's +1 speed, and then do it again, and then do it again. I did that wrong order. Sorry. This one puts you to range 3, so you have to do assault, then dead space, then assault, then dead space.
Dead space, right?
The problem with that is, again, if they have any inkling as to what you're doing at all, or if they just know that you're playing Seth, on one of those, they're just going to say, okay, I'll play sweep.
Right.
And you will be down significant value on that turn.
Right. And the sweep will probably work just fine on you.
Yes, and now you've lost whatever the card was.
Right.
Now, you could say, all right, well, I'll throw +1 speed on this 3/7 too, so it is likelier to hit, because that is intuitively true. If you make something faster, it's likelier to hit, and that is true. It does make it likelier to win against a wild swing, and it allows it to cover exactly spike badly.
Yeah.
Because if you use this ability, this doesn't stun sweep anymore.
Yeah. The things you have this card for.
Yeah, the reason this card exists is to stun sweep. If you give it extra speed, then now you say, all right, my lost case against spike is that I deal 7 and take 5, but my lost case against sweep, my win case against sweep is that I deal 7 and take 6 in a card.
6 in a card, yeah. That is no longer so like that. Arguably trade up, arguably trade down, depending on how good the card is. Certainly, it's not a crushing win that you can use to then win. Like off the value of that 7 damage to 0 damage trade, you're going to win the game off of it. It's not that anymore.
It's not that anymore, and you needed that. So you said, okay, you have to be up by a significant amount to say, I want to turn my I win the strike card into, actually, I will just not lose the strike in these 2 situations.
Right.
Well, like that's we talk about filtering options, right? Where you say, I'm going to play this card that covers multiple things instead of this card that only answers one thing. But making this cover multiple things when it costs the ability to cover the one most important thing,
right,
I think it is a massive loss in value.
And also cover more things asterisk, right? Because
cover one more thing for the most part.
It kind of covers them because it doesn't stun them anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
It kind of covers spike in that you get to deal 7 damage, and 7 damage is nice. 7 damage is good. You do want to deal 7 damage.
Right.
Most of the time, the thing that you are going to lose to is a thing that you would have lost to either way. They play a diver and assaults, cool. You were not fast enough for that. You lose.
Right. Yeah, 3/7/3 no guard is like very, very marginally safer than 3/7/2, but it's not safe. Like
nope.
A second ago when you said that you will not be able to make this safe no matter what you do to it, included in that is giving it a single greater point in speed. Like that's not going to help.
What in fact that means is that if you can so the typical, how to put it, for a season 6 character, if you have some ability or some boost that says plus speed or plus power or plus stats of some kind and strike, then you add that to EX and you go, all right, that's the highest stats I'm hitting.
Yeah, pretty much.
The most stats this is going to get, for the most part, is the 3/8/4.
Yes.
Still loses to assault.
Yep. Yeah. Still under curve at 3. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So that and that, at that point you're not
assault,
stunning.
Trades with dive, trades with spike, and trades with sweep.
Yeah.
Like why did you do this thing?
Why did you do that? Okay.
Yeah. Instead, play 1 copy, and then if you lose that strike, then play the other copy later and win that strike.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, yes. And I mean, like it's refreshing in its simplicity, but like use your mix-up card to win the mix-up is surprisingly like rare advice in Exceed, especially with like more. I've been doing a lot of like 7th Cross characters recently, like characters with a lot more engine components. It's interesting to go back to a place where we're like, this is for dealing a lot of damage and getting rid of an important card.
Yeah, it's like, here, let's talk about all of your cool setup tools and movement tech and shenanigans. We'll come to that. Let me. I'm starting kind of from the bottom up and saying, first, look at this.
Yeah,
it's the simplest tool in your kit. It is the most damaging tool in your kit. It's really important. Remember it.
Okay. Yep, makes sense to me.
Yeah. All right. By the same token as its effects on piercing penetration, I think the ability is pretty underwhelming and often pretty dangerous. It's easy to shoot yourself in the foot with this.
Yeah.
Um, if your opponent has anything that says, "Man, I sure hope I don't get stunned, but this would be really awesome to pay out," you give it to them on a silver platter.
Right.
Um, if they have something, if they have a command grab, something that's a mid speed with no guard, but maybe it has a little bit of movement so it can close in, then you are going to suffer. Which is why the default options are range 3 dive, so that being faster means you win. Range 2 or sometimes 1 cross, where you are faster and therefore you leave. Though I'd say sometimes 1 because, again, at range 1, if they anticipate that you are playing the extremely obvious, really telegraphed Seth range 1 cross, they can play a dive and catch you.
Right.
Because you retreat 3, they advance 3. Or focus to make them think you're playing a cross, or just because in various cases they might waste something. Like if they anticipate the range 1 cross and want to destroy you, they play EX Grasp, which is actually what focus beats.
Yeah.
So those are the normal dynamics. The other normal dynamics are, again, the fast assault. You could play a particularly fast grasp that doesn't stun anything and is therefore much worse than most grasps. You could give spike plus speed, I guess. Please think about the consequences of your decisions if you do that.
Yeah.
Removing
You
Spike's ability to stun anything is a terrible idea. Please don't do
yeah,
that.
you unless you like you're like what I need right now is ignore armor but not to checkmate my opponent into a kill.
Yeah.
Like we're inventing scenarios to do these
It
things.
is not impossible. Maybe the weirdest scenario that I've used this, I don't know. I had one that came up earlier that was actually pretty funny, where I used it on focus, but it's because I needed to use it on exactly focus. But one of the weirder scenarios, other than that one, was that I initiated with that ability on sweep because I was expecting them to respond with EX sweep, which they did.
Nice.
So I won the speed tie instead of losing it. So instead of taking 7 and dealing nothing, I at least got to hit them for 5.
You did something to EX sweep, sure. And now
Yeah,
they don't now you don't got to worry about sweep anymore.
Yeah. So there's going to be cases where you can find your uses for it, but they're going to be a lot more narrower than the characters who don't have these additional costs, right? Anybody
Right.
who can say +1 speed sometimes, you'll find situations that you want to dismantle where you're like, oh, I need exactly +1 speed to cover this boost with this attack. When those will come up, but it's a lot sparser because now you don't just cover things by being faster. You also have to actually evade them. And although you do have a lot of movement,
evade them in a way that that uh the situations in which you can evade things and exceed are actually like kind of rare outside of like certain characters who can do it more consistently. And we haven't really seen anything on Seth. Like there aren't that many. It seems like um, bespoke, huge dodges. Like we saw an advance 3 on a mid speed, for example.
yeah, no,
That
he has advanced 3, advanced 3, advanced 3. Like
yeah,
he's
none of
constantly
those are
hurtling
enough.
toward you. Yeah. And 2 of them will bring you into melee, not more likely than out from it.
Right.
So he's constantly hurtling toward you. He's pretty decent at slipping under fireballs. Like if the opponent is throwing projectiles, then he has some ways to get in, and that he does find useful. And you might occasionally need this for that. At which point you'll get swept, but you already knew that. You're playing Seth.
Yes.
So that's fine. But yeah, like plus speed on this initiating. Okay, you're quote unquote covering the defending assault, I guess, which because you're now allowing them to hit you back with something, but you're probably better off just playing it either on offense or on defense. And I seldom play it on offense, though I do sometimes. Dead Space, unless you're okay. This might be the most notable case of, well, guaranteeing my advantage and popping out to range 3, and if they chase me with assaults, at least I'm out of the corner. Like that's pretty justifiable. Is to say I'm cornered and I need to get out. All right, you'll still lose to grasp, but like that's decent. It is very predictable. Okay, you'll get swept. It's fine. You're Seth. You knew that already.
Right.
So there is some justification to that one. It makes Vanishing cover pretty much exactly EX dive. If you played Vanishing, you were already expecting to get swept because you're Seth and you knew that. Yep. So it's not like making this faster is really usually just value because you did not anticipate beating anything anyway. Your goal is to deal 5 damage and get this boost into play.
And get souls. It's not going to overturn a strike interaction, and if you're playing this card, you probably don't care about that anyway.
Yeah. Like as demonstrated by the normal like lineup that we did, uh, doesn't win cleanly, almost never wins cleanly, never wins cleanly. Um, Covers very few things, although we'll come back to that one's going to have some interesting stuff going on.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, you're probably trading with all of these. So the idea is you use your ability to ensure the trade, but often it's just not worth it.
Right.
This is the case that I think is the most defensible of these.
Okay. That makes sense.
Because, and if you're thinking like, well, if I want to ensure the trade, like why is it not worth it? The answer is, if your opponent decided to wild swing, you make yourself much worse against a wild swing. Right? Like I said, this card loses against the average wild swing, and I did not mean from any particular deck. I meant in the game. And that's probably,
all
I'm not
wild
running the
swings across
numbers.
all of Exceed.
But like this shape.
Yeah.
They're, yeah. So if your opponent wild swings, it's because they don't have a thing in hand they want to play to beat you, or they know the thing that they want to play is in their deck. And in either case, their wild swing is likelier to be a better shape than this one. And if you make it so your attack can't stun, their wild swings look a lot better. So
right.
you're hurting your interactions most of the time that you do this.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And just to have a plan. If you not only have a plan to do it, make sure it's like a pretty good plan, because it sounds like even the ones that are planned have more downsides than upsides.
Yeah, that it's a real cost. It causes issues. You can, his kit is maybe not as obvious as some, but in a lot of ways, it's a multi-tool of little things that do various things that you can use in a bunch of places. And this is one of those tools. It is not it's not useful a lot of times. Sometimes it's what you need. Like I said, I've used it on sweep and on focus in cases where I needed it for exactly that. But most of the time that you're going to be like, well, this is bad unless I'm playing range 3 dive, range 2 cross. Like range with focus, it's just meaningless, but that's a good reason to do it, honestly.
Right. Sure. Okay. Yeah, and like if that is the extent of the heuristic that you develop as Seth and when to use this character ability, use it on range 3 dive and range 1 or 2 cross. Like, it won't actually hurt your play that much. It seems like everything else is such a niche application that if you focus your attention elsewhere, you'll probably get better faster.
Yeah. If you try to find places to use this, then you are probably neglecting the skills that will actually make you better at Seth. It is more that as you develop all your other skills, you will find that there are places where you can use this.
You'll evaluate your games afterward and be like, hey, actually, this one situation that I was in where I wasn't paying attention to my character ability, because why would I have all these great boosts, would have actually really helped. I'll remember that for later.
Yep.
Okay.
Quick sidebar. You'll never use this. Ignore it.
Okay. This is the same thing, but it's 2 speed and it costs a gauge.
Yep.
All right, man.
So
with
all the drawbacks we described cost more.
With such an anemic and unthreatening now strike boost, it's really nice that I have such a good character ability to
I know, right?
Yeah, to help me help my consistency a little bit.
Yeah, and I also appreciate your exceed ability.
It's red.
Exactly, like this. You spend gauge,
yep.
and you get your character ability.
Yep.
So that's obviously your exceed ability.
Makes sense. Weird
let's
that they're on
actually
2 different cards.
Yeah, let's shift into that. Well, this is the real one. So let's shift into that because the ultras are pretty interesting.
Okay.
So abyssal geometry, besides being a joke because it says 1, 2, 3, 4 in it, and it's geometry. Anyway,
hilarious.
Yes, it's stun immune, and stun immunity is pretty good. It has like maybe the worst confirm of any stun immune card in the game because it is exactly range 2.
Yeah,
but you're Seth, so no, it doesn't. It's fine. You have something that says it hits.
Right.
Even if you don't, though. Sorry, go ahead.
Really quick, this was something that I noticed as we were talking through all of the other cards, basically, and it's probably worth underlining that, like, without the boosts in play, Seth's kit is like obnoxiously range sensitive. It seems like this only hits at 1. This only hits at 1. This only hits at 4. There's no
1, 4. Yes, 2, 3.
3. Right. Like so as we talk about the ultras, it will, I'm sure it'll become apparent why I need these boosts to confirm these specific good things, but it seems like I kind of need the boosts to confirm basically anything I want to do.
Yeah. That is the main reason that I look at the attacks as niche tools, and then I still expect to play a lot of normal attacks.
Right. Sure. And I guess I use the word confirm, which is confirm the attacks, which is probably the wrong word, actually. It's more like I need to set up board states
Enable.
where they're even possible to play. Because
Yeah.
you can absolutely throw out a card that is not confirmed and still get value out of it in Exceed. You can wild swing a spike and be like, oh cool, I beat that focus, awesome. But you like if you're at range 1, some of these cards aren't like, or if you're at range 2, some of these cards literally aren't real. They can't do anything for you unless you have these boosts in play. They're completely dead, it seems like. Okay.
Yeah.
So I need these
attack,
boosts then.
Yeah, you need the boosts, and you will often. So we talked about attack versus boost. You'll often be able to say like, well, at this range, this attack is terrible,
Right.
or does nothing, or is
The
useless.
kit will make the decision for me because I will have something that can't do anything else in my hand, except I guess change cards, which season 6,
Yeah, which is always relevant. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So like notably, this attack. So this is going to sound backwards, but I'll explain in a moment. This attack, range 4, cool. If you are cornered, then this boost says, all right, now I'm not in the corner. Great. If you have the opponent cornered, both sides of this are dead.
Yeah.
And that is going to feel
why would
weird.
you bother with the boost and this doesn't hit and can't get me out of the corner?
Yeah. That is generally going to feel strange. It's not how a lot of characters work. However, remember the character who's likely to be the one in corners is the one who is more mobile. Typically, the less mobile character occupies the center.
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to need a lot of things to get me out of the corner.
You're expected to end up cornering yourself at least once, especially because you have like good ways to set up dive at unusual ranges. Like regular dive, I mean, like the normal.
Real dive.
So, diving yourself into the corner is not unlikely to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Or just because you played one of your attacks that says after advance.
Right.
So a boost that is let me get out of the corner and resume my life, you will probably find use for.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sorry for that sidebar. We can go back to the altars. I just wanted to highlight that, like, wow, without these boosts in play, Seth gets just like range locked a lot of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's all the joys of range 4 dive and none of the range 1 where you go, oh, this doesn't.
Yeah, none of the like the non-hit utility of a dive.
Yes, it's the on-curve stuff only, and it doesn't even work at closer ranges, so it is rough.
Right. Okay.
All right, let's talk about ultras. So this is where you'll spend your gauge, other than change cards, which you will be using. We'll do the 1 gauge one first. It's cheaper. You'll have access to it sooner, so you'll care about it sooner. I'm just assuming that somebody's going to be watching this in real time as they're playing, so I should.
As they're playing, Seth, they're like, "Oh my god, I'm so out of my depth right now. Hurry up and upload Gearface, please."
Yeah. So they got 1 gauge, and now we're at the part where they need to hear about this ultra.
Right. It took them 52 minutes to get 1 gauge.
Well, I know some players.
They had to change cards a lot to find the ultra.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
Say their opponent was Wait, we don't have a canonical big band. I was going to say they were playing big band, so they had to wait for their opponent to finish their song.
Right. Their opponent was being very deliberate.
Yes. Yep. They were reciting every line of Hakumen's dialogue throughout the entire game. I am the white void. Anyway. All right. Point is, now that you have a game, that's okay. You'll improve your aim. Now that you have 1 gauge, you should be looking at abyssal geometry.
Okay.
So, this is a pretty cool exceed ability. I mean, yeah, whatever. We'll keep that one in.
Yeah.
Its stat line is amusing. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. The speed 4 doesn't particularly matter because what exactly are you going to be stunning with 3 damage that matters at speed 4, right? It sounds like a mid-speed number. This is in fact a slow. It just happens to go at speed 4.
Right.
And it's a very weird slow because it's also a fast. It loses in the ways that a slow loses, since it only hits at range 2, unless you have, unless you're playing Seth, you won't be able to hit anybody with any kind of movements, which is the way that slows commonly lose.
Right.
It also loses in the ways that a fast loses, because it only does 3 damage, so it will trade down against anything slower than it.
Right.
It does not win either of those ways. It can't outdamage things like a slow, it can't trade up, and it can't, well, technically it can stun things, but it's not gonna. Your opponent has to be playing, I don't know, something like this.
Sure. And the like, you might be slightly more able, maybe not in season 6, but you might be slightly more able to confirm an abyssal geometry than you would a piercing penetration, but also like the upside of spending a bunch of resources to land 3 damage versus 7 is like, that's not a great use of your time, it seems like.
Yep. Which is why I did actually want to characterize these as well, this one specifically, as being more like an exceed ability, because what you're doing is you're spending a gauge to play an attack that says attacks at range 3 don't hit you,
Right.
and also has stun immunity, which might let you do 3 damage, so that you don't waste your boosts. And then it
Sure.
becomes this, because here's the thing, right? If you have, for example, this boost in play, and then your opponent does something like +2 speed and strike, and you go, oh, well, this is not enough to make my grasp beat their assaults.
Right.
I no longer get to win the strike that I wanted to. Well, I have stun immunity, which means I'm going to get value out of my boost because I have stun immunity. They can't stop me.
Yeah, I have stun immunity and,
So,
and a huge amount of movement to go wherever I need to go.
yep. So any given boost makes this attack sorry. So it's flips. You use this attack to confirm the value of a boost that you have in play.
Okay.
You normally don't actually care about landing the attack, but it is if you run out of other things to confirm, I have some suggestions. But if you run out of other things to confirm, this at least ensures that you can do something meaningful in a strike.
Right.
And since you expect to be trading down a lot, making sure that you trade at all is at least something.
Okay.
This is the value that normally comes with having stun immunity on any character with it. You're getting a little bit less than a lot of those do, because what you're doing with stun immunity is just probably 3, maybe 4 damage. But it's damage that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and it's probably some amount of positioning control that you care about. All right.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So okay, we have this this cleanup effect. Well, I know. I mean, the positioning control is going to come from the boost, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. The before effects position
Right.
control, because you also can just say, I don't actually care about hitting my opponent for 3. I would rather get them to range 3 or range 4. Because there is an interesting thing that can happen here where it's like with Soul's Oath at range 2, your opponent plays sweep and you play Abyssal Geometry and you go, I don't want to hit you. I want to push you 1 to range 3, and then you
range
don't
3
hit me.
where we mutually whiff, but I mutually whiff with 3 damage and you whiff with a sweep.
Exactly.
And I still get my boost install.
And you still get the actual reason you played this card.
Right.
Or I should say that the reason that you will always play this card, not the other ways that you want to get value out of it.
Right.
Because the reason that you will always play this card is because it's a card that says you're spinning a gauge, getting this boost into play, and doing something else useful. Whether that other useful thing is that you're confirming one of your boosts to hit the opponent for a little bit of value against whatever the heck they just did, or whether that useful thing is saying, I don't get hit at range 3 by your spike or sweep or 3 gauge ultra or whatever.
Right.
You're doing something useful in addition to spending your opponent's turn playing a boost.
Right. Sure. So, and I mean, like predicated on like all of this is predicated on the fact that you're doing this on defense. You're probably never, if you have a Soul's Oath or a fast fall in play and you don't have something to confirm that's better than Abyssal Geometry, that sounds like a great time to change cards.
Yes.
If they strike into you, cool, I can get Stitched Segment.
Yep. Yeah, the way that this loses when you respond is they played something like a cross, which you probably weren't going to do much about anyway, although, depending what boost you had, maybe you could have.
Right.
Or they play something like a dive that crosses over, where you're like, oh, I could have initiated and beaten that. Yeah, I guess you could have. That's like okay. You're not happy to lose that. It is a rare circumstance, because they had a dive that they just played, which in this season means they spent a reading. In most other seasons means that they didn't discard one of these from play.
So they didn't get rid of your real character ability.
Yes. Like and similarly, he does not have ways to beat block, but he doesn't technically has one. He does not usually care about beating block because what's block? It has tech hit. What's block? It has parry.
Right.
Like the boosts on those get a lot more mileage against him than the attack
than beating a block would against Seth.
Yeah, like if against Seth you play a block, cool, you are blocking a 3 damage hit. Maybe a 5 damage hit. Maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
And hey, if you do happen to block something that is a big damage payout from Seth, that's a lot of his damage, right? He can't do that super often, but you're also giving up the ability to have dealt with these cards one way or another.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is also pretty uncommon for people to play block into Seth in my experience, just because he will often be able to hit you with spike no matter where he's standing.
True, yeah. Like
Yeah,
again, the
with all those
actual
movement.
upside of this character ability is probably going to be. I think at some point we're going to scroll over to this side and be like, wow, all of these things are really good with Fast Fall and Soul's Oath.
Yeah.
And among them is something that beats block quite well.
Yes.
Okay,
Um, yeah, they're not quite stapled, but yeah, Spike is has a paperclip attaching it to these boosts.
right, yeah, they're good friends at least.
Very close. Um, yeah. All right. So back to abyssal geometry.
Yes,
I've already described that as an attack, it's not much. It has a bunch of ways that it doesn't really do much impressive. It does something, hopefully, and then it definitely does this.
right.
And this is fantastic. So let's actually now pay attention to Stitch segment properly, right? So we've talked a little about Soul's Oath. We've glanced at Fastfall. I didn't actually say it out loud, but it doesn't particularly matter. It's a pretty simple boost. But this is the weakest of the three, but also I think you'll find often the strongest. So the movement component is weaker, right? This is advanced retreat 1 and 2. This is push pull advanced retreat 1.
Right.
This is push or pull 1.
Right.
You get the fewest options. But it has this glistening fruit, this red gem, this wonderful text here, which makes the red number go up. And as Seth, you are starved for red number. And in particular, I would like to note that because you played Abyssal Geometry, you are probably within ranges 1 to 3. With this boost in play, you have turned on a variety of threats from range 1 Spike to range 2 Grasp to range 3 Cross to range 2 Dive. And if your opponent's into at range 4 or especially at range 1, 7 is the amount of damage your sweep deals.
Your own
and it catches
copy of
cross.
Sweep.
Yes. And since you're a character who is more likely to be cornered than the one doing the cornering, a cornered 7 power sweep that drags them back in if they try to play cross
If they try to
is
cross
a nice
out.
card to have.
Yeah. Okay. They can't dive
it
over
no longer
you. They
loses to
can't cross
anything.
out.
Yeah. That situation is not terribly unlikely to happen. It is also pretty likely that you will be at range 4 and play your sweep from range 4
Right.
and say, did you play a focus because I'm Seth and you expected me to come hurtling toward you at top speed? Okay, no. Like, get hit. If they do play a focus, okay, that's one focus that you didn't eat this game, which you're Seth. You're very surprised that you didn't walk into a focus.
Right.
Like that's you're pretty okay with that, I think.
Okay. So this has meaningful overlap positioning and movement wise with my slightly stronger boosts, but having extra power on it on Seth in particular is obviously great, but it also just kind of like these things together are like stronger than the sum of their parts, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that +1 power really does offset that it's not as strong a movement effect, and it is entirely viable to play this from hands and say, my opponent thinks that I'm playing before push or pull 1, but I'm playing +1 power on my turn as an ultra boost, which sounds pretty bad, but you know what? Maybe I've got an EX dive, an EX assault, an EX sweep. Sorry, a regular sweep. EX sweep would be godlike. Or if this is my second boost in play, because I have some other movement or superior of all things, like I have played this for +1 power and not regretted it, and I usually don't regret it.
Okay.
Although, sorry, I'm giving a bad example. I'm talking about playing this from hand. You won't play this from hand. You'll play this from hand. But
Okay.
Since we're talking about the boost,
and the oh yeah, they're the same boost. But the reason that you wouldn't play this from hand is that Abyssal Geometry is like not hard to action compress to use on your opponent's turn. It's actually like
right.
effectively
Like,
guaranteed as long as you can
it's not a good
afford
attack,
to. Yeah, as long as you can afford
but
to
it
not
means I'm getting the
get
boost.
killed by it.
Yeah, it's like unless I really know that I am gonna regret it, it's often well, I have no boost in play right now, and they're striking. Cool. Now I will have a boost in play.
Sure. Yeah, you are going to lose a strike on your opponent's turn to win a strike on your turn.
Yeah. And if they happen to advantage chain, you have a much scarier looking response on whatever that is they plan to do next.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah. So Abyssal Geometry, I play the attack. I don't really care about the attack, except in that it will give me some niche value. I will very commonly play this with no boost in play at range 3 and just say, okay, I lose to assault and dive, but I beat Spike and Sweep, and now I have a boost.
And hey, this is something that I can play on offense even. that doesn't lose to that doesn't lose to sweep, the rest of my kit really appreciates that.
Yeah, it's nice to have that. And opponents at range 3 will often look at this and say, well, I guess they could dodge my sweep, but they're not going to hit me. So do I care?
Who cares, right? And then you can make them care with Stitch Segment.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
I also noticed that there is like an action component on Stitch Segment.
Yeah. Weird. Um, I don't know. Maybe it like bled in from another sheet.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
All
more
right.
it's more TTS jank, I bet.
Yeah. It must be an error. No. So there. Consider this the toothpick in your Swiss Army knife. There are cases where it's the thing that you'll need. But not normally. Like the value of this before effect is almost always so much higher.
Okay.
Because if what you need is a little bit of movement outside of strikes, you're a season 6 character and you've got these 2 instant boosts, I think you'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah.
If what you need is I move my opponent to and also have some other movement in play, like that's the case that I have played this, is when I go, okay, I need to reposition them and then do something more dramatic than that right afterwards, where I say move to and retreat to, or sorry, what am I trying to say? Pull them into the corner, retreat to take another action. Like if you have 2 board state configuration changes you need to make at once, this is going to be one of them. But vast majority of the time, when this is in play, you don't want to discard it.
Okay, just leave it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the cost of to be clear, the cost of the action is that you discard it. You take another action, but now it's not in play and it's a really good boost.
Sure. Yeah. That is an extremely relevant cost for a free quote unquote second action.
Yeah.
Okay.
The effect is strong. There's a lot of characters in a lot of situations where I love that effect. It's just not worth it most of the time.
Yep. Makes sense. Seth needs it too much. How about Distant Frontier?
All right. So having talked about Stitch Segment a lot, we don't need to talk about it again in this case, except to say that Abyssal Geometry I will throw out and be like, yeah, at worst this is just kind of becoming a Stitch Segment. That's fine. This is 3 gauge. You probably shouldn't throw this out. Right. Even though you don't use gauge for a lot of things, Abyssal Geometry, because of how it works, will not go back to your gauge. So you are spending 1 and you're not getting 1 back even if you hit.
Right. It's a legitimate 1 gauge ultra, not like a free special that has a weird gauge requirement up front.
Yeah. And gauge is still valued for change cards, especially.
Sure.
So this cost is pretty real. You will probably get to 3 gauge. You will. Oh, sorry. I should also disclaim this. One of my 2 favorite. That's true. That's just true. One of my 2 favorite cards in the kit. I love playing this. This is why I initially started playing Seth, because when we had the preview version, we had an error on it, so it was only 2 gauge. And at 2 gauge, you would mash this thing all day.
Right.
But I love this card and I will play it all the time. It is not correct to play it as often as I play it, in all likelihood. Okay. If I'm trying to win, I will sometimes play this attack. Because, as it turns out, if I'm set up for it, it has 6 power on it. And sure, it loses to sweep, or focus, or whatever. But it has 6 power on it, and I'm going to draw about 50 cards. Let's go through it, right? 1/6/3 before close 6. Draw 1 per space moved. So it hits from range 7.
Yep.
It also has some amusing cases, right, where you can start here, and if you have Soul's Oath or another Stitch Segment in play, then you can shove them back to get an extra card and extra power.
To get more cards.
Yeah, and I've done that.
Yep.
Yes. Actually, since I'm on that subject, I should note, just to make sure everyone remembers this interaction, because this is an important interaction. If you're standing here before, you may push 1. Like, this is a fundamental rule of Exceed. It's really basic, but I'm just going to remind you that if your opponent's at the wall, you don't have to pull them out of the corner.
Sure.
You just push. You say, push them. It comes up with Grasp when the opponent is cornered. And I know it's like basic rule stuff, not super high level strategy. But please know, if they are already cornered, there may well be cases where you want to keep them there. Because, and maybe you don't. But, yeah. The closer they are to the wall, the more likely it is you'll be able to do something silly with this.
Right.
Yeah, so when I play this attack, I often will play it with another power boost. That may also, that also often helps me threaten other another option where if we're at range 5 and I have this boost in play, then I'm clearly threatening either a dive or my speed 6 range 4, and saying, okay, I can hit you from this range with something that charges toward you, so that now that you play a sweep, and lo and behold, I actually found a way to beat sweep.
Right.
Because I still don't beat focus. Oh well. You're Seth, you weren't expecting to. And I draw again a lot of cards.
Yeah.
If you are at range 3 or well, all right. I guess I don't even want to say that definitively. Never consider playing it at range 1 except in the extraordinary circumstance that you're playing at EX because you really, really believe your opponent is playing sweep. Like if you need 7 power, you need 7 power, except no substitutes. But you should almost always be playing this with proper setup.
And proper setup in this case is like what it sounds to me like what you want is partially damage, partially card draw. You're getting more card draw the further out you are.
I'm like, I wanted to say never play it at 3, but I don't actually think I would go that far, even knowing that I'm speaking a little bit hyperbolically. Just because 6 damage is a lot.
Yeah.
If you're the main issue is that it's hard to make this reliable, because it's only speed 3.
Right.
So typically you're going to play it out at range where your opponent can't interact with you because they don't have a fast enough projectile. Look, hush, Ryu.
The number of times that Ryu, as our training dummy, has messed with otherwise a pretty ironclad positioning example. He's got a lot of answers to things, I feel like.
Yeah. But I'll tell you some good news. Ryu does not have a range 7 projectile.
True.
This hits at range 7.
Yep.
All right. So against somebody who has very strong, very fast, very dangerous range tools, you can probably outrange them. If somebody has really long range tools, you're not going to play the stack.
Right.
If you're fighting somebody who actually can shoot you down at speed, if you're fighting Axel, like if you're fighting Lily, right? Someone who can shoot you down at speed. Actually, even Lily taps out at 6. But point is made. You. Oh, and by the way, it's acceptable to play it just for the draw, and because it installs the boost afterward.
Right.
It is always preferable to get the damage on the attack because you are Seth and you need damage.
Sure.
And 6 is a lot.
But if you're here against Sagat with low Tiger Shot, and you're like, well,
and you get the chance to initiate, you probably should.
Yeah. You can't defend with it anymore because, again, low Tiger Shot. But hey, at least you can get a lot of cards and a useful boost.
Yep. Because at that point you're spending, 5 force to draw 6 and move 6.
Right.
And
that is some kind of force efficiency for sure.
Yeah.
So when I'm out this far, there's nothing else that I'm doing, right? There are no other cards in my kit that hit this far out or anything like that, other than like me spending some time to change cards when I'm not under threat. I don't have a mix-up out here or anything.
There's no mix-up here.
Right. So
if you have no boost in play, the mix-up is, I guess I could play block or literally nothing.
Right, sure.
I can play a grasp and just laugh.
So and something I could do to enable a mix-up, obviously, is when I'm already out here, my boosts would allow me to move further in and threaten something else. But I'm wondering about why you would, or how really, you would spend time to get out here in the first place without, like, really clearly telegraphing your intent.
Oh, you don't spend time. That's my answer to that.
Right.
This boost.
There you go. Okay. So you're at range 4, or you've crossed out to range 5, and then you pop out here to play Distant Frontier.
Yeah. Typically you'll be starting closer to range 3 just because it's kind of hard for you to get farther away without concentrated effort.
Right.
But like, maybe you uncoordinate yourself to range 3. Like this is something I have actually done. Is said advance 3, take another action, retreat 2, take another action, retreat 2, take another action, strike.
Yeah. Okay.
That cost my entire hand, but hey, I got my hand back because I drew 6 cards. You got a new hand,
and you used these cards productively to deal 6 damage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is, I think, totally reasonable.
Right.
But yeah, you aren't expecting to spend much time like, oh, I'm gonna be spacing myself out at range 5-ish so that I can get this online properly.
Right.
You are expecting that you will be hovering within closer ranges. And then at some point, either because you played across or because you just saw a good opportunity when you were around range 3, you went, all right, retreat 2, they're out of range 5 tools, this is okay. Or if you got out for range 4 or 5, retreat 2.
Right.
I bloody well hope they're out of range 7 tools. Let's
Right.
go.
And I guess if they are hugging the center of the board, that could be a use case for your action part of the Stitch segment. If you really, really need to push it out to be able to confirm this, I guess.
Yeah, it's a viable way to do it. But if they're hugging the center, most likely what you're doing is the things that most mobile characters do, which is that you're zipping around
Right.
and hitting them with your stuff that hurtles toward them, and then occasionally throwing mix-ups. Like, if the opponent was glued to this space, you'd probably never play Distant Frontier, and that's okay because, as I think I alluded to earlier, of these two, you can do this for man.
You'll boost this
That's
in
fine.
neutral all the time. Okay.
Yeah, that's a totally acceptable neutral list.
Okay.
Um, so if they are incapable of moving from the center space of the arena, and you go, man, 4 just doesn't feel like good range for this, you're right. Just boost it.
Right.
That's fine.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that seems pretty easy. And obviously, so the other component of ultras is that you have the ability to change cards with ultras and get more cards out of them.
Yes.
These are the boost at least seems like very easy to play and very valuable. And this is an attack that is a boost. Is it difficult to change cards with these?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I'm kind of glad that Seth doesn't have much use for gauge outside of these because it allows me to more easily spin my gauge on change cards.
Sure.
I'm also kind of glad that he has enough so much niche utility like these attacks. I'm very often willing to change cards. They well, this one in particular has important uses. I'm going to talk about this in more detail in a bit.
Right.
But like I'm willing to throw some stuff away. This one I am likelier to change cards with, just because it is likelier that I'm never going to build up to 3 gauge because I spent my gauge changing cards or playing this. If let me clarify. If you want to build 3 gauge, you will.
Sure.
It's not that hard. You will be able to do it. If you are trying to spend your resources relatively aggressively as you get them, it is pretty easy to never get to 3 gauge because you got to 1, you played this. You got to 2, you changed cards.
Right.
So it's not uncommon for me to change cards this, just kind of expecting that to happen.
Okay.
I will always prefer to keep this around because I often want to have the attack available to me for a range 3 dodge or, sometimes for a percent immunity.
And while we're talking about economy, I'm assuming that there's pretty narrow use cases or narrow cases where you would change cards these boost. I mean these cards, of course. That's what I meant. You wouldn't change boosts.
I guess these are worth force. Weird. I barely thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's legal, and I'm sure that there are cases, maybe at gunpoint where I would change cards with these.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, one thing I remember from the Byakuya lesson is how good these kinds of boosts are at making your opponent have difficulty productively attacking you, which will give you time to change cards without incurring too much threat. So, like, these are change cards boosts. They're just not things that you spend to change cards.
In a sense, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Seth is worse at keeping the opponent off him than Byakuya is. Byakuya is more invested in defensive utility.
Right.
Seth, you are much likelier to be expecting bad trades for a lot of the game, and then you will need to drop a nuke on them at least once. And this is my preferred nuke. This is my actual favorite one to play, but it's a lot less accessible, and it also doesn't beat sweep as printed.
Right. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that's the ultras. They are extremely useful, extremely important. These are where your gauge is likely to go, other than change cards, which again you will be doing. Make me mistake.
Got it. Okay.
All right. We've already talked about this attack. I have now talked about the primary use case for this boost. I should note that it's not the only time you might want to do that. For example, this boost is tailor-made to say, oh, let me go to range 3 and then play +1 speed dive.
Sure.
Like, cool. You can do that. You're just like, all right, we're at range 1 and I'm happy at range 1. Let's stay at range 1, but I hit you for 5 damage.
But I hit you for 5 and you can't hurt me.
Yep. Seems good to me.
Right. Okay.
So you're totally fine using it for that. I often don't actually find good reasons to go from range 2 to range 4. Range 4 constrains my options a lot more, unless I have some boost in play already. If I have a continuous boost in play already, then I might be able to do something ridiculous from there.
Right. This is but also like many of your boosts would allow. So like if you have a boost that works at range 4 in order to set up something, if you're trying to set up range 3, for example, you can probably do that from range 2 just as well with the boost that you're talking about. So you would probably be trying to set up something for longer range.
Yeah, i.e. this.
Something like this in Frontier, sure. Hence the initial use case for this boost that you named.
Yeah, and that is the primary use case for me. Although it's maybe like 60-40, where it's like, yeah, most of the time that I play this boost, it's going to a setup for this. That's it. I think for actual play, you want to invert that number and say, yeah, 40% of the time it sets up. 60% of the time it's because I saw a good chance to play something at range 3, and so I did that.
A solid range 3 dive play. So right. Yeah, and I mean, you love this attack approximately like maybe 20% more than you should. It seems like from the math.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think 60% of the card's value, but yeah.
There you go.
Or no, 33% of the card's value.
Right.
But yes. It's because drawing a lot of cards is fun. Yeah. It's also good, but more importantly, it's fun.
But I remember a disclaimer from the beginning of the show. You should play Exceed for fun, and this is a fun card.
Oh, yeah, true. There you go.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, so that's
this is really for a specific use case or a more general use case that looks like one of these cards, probably one of your mid speeds, maybe this sometimes if you're cool. And then the attack, we mentioned it very briefly, and it sounds like there isn't very much more to say about the attack.
It beats focus at range 1. It may sometimes allow you to advantage chain against opponents who have generally slower kits. If everything in your opponent's kit is speed 5 or less, okay, you can hit them, and now it's your turn, and now you're in 3, and isn't that kind of what you wanted from the boost? That's like not too bad. You're probably still trading a sweep, but you're Seth. You were expecting that.
Sure.
It does have one other really important notable use case. They play projectile. All right, you missed my turn.
Yep, it's another way to dive under projectiles.
Speed 4 or lower, you can duck under a projectile, and you're doing it at a cost that practically doesn't exist. This is your lowest value special.
Okay.
Like, I'll just be direct about that. This is the card that you will likely be the first to throw on force or to use as a movement tool in that way.
Sure. And this also, I mean, so you do have other ways among your boosts, especially like these two are incredible at dodging projectiles. Especially I'm sure fast fall in particular is pretty crazy, but you would rather not use those for that if you can use them to confirm damage.
Yeah. If I'm using fast fall, I'm expecting to hit.
Right.
Because it's too good at doing that. So I'm like, all right, I may be able to dodge something, but I should be able to dodge something and also hit. Otherwise, why am I playing fast fall?
And this is a great way to dodge something when you've been caught without a boost in play.
Yes.
As a projectile in particular, I mean.
Yeah, projectile in particular. It also is decent at covering spike and dive at range 3. Not necessarily the case that I use it for the most often, but it has come up.
Right.
Yeah. I made it as a throwaway comment, but I'll say it a third time just for the sake of it. It beats focus at range 1, and that matters. Focus is really good at range 1.
Right.
And it is the thing you have that does that. Nothing else in your kit, unless you have a boost in play. We'll cover that. So it is viable just for the sake of having a thing that does that. That's the little corkscrew in this was Army Knife.
Right. Okay.
That's the thing that I needed. I had it. All right.
Makes sense.
Second least valuable special. And this is actually deceptive because the value here is a little bit weird. I would put this on par with this, even though I think it's less important. Because it like this card does something that your other attacks don't do in terms of its shape. This is the thing that beats sweep.
Right.
This is massively above curve.
Yes.
Well, massively is an overstatement, but it's speed 6 at range 4, which is 2 points above curve, which is pretty darn meaningful.
Yeah.
It is notably a little bit deceptive in that regard. So the before effect lets you play Stitch Segment as a boost, and then sustain it, which means that you get this before effect during this strike.
Right. Sure. And so this is a before effect. This is a before effect. You order your triggers and you get your like no contradiction there. You're totally fine. You just are able to move wherever you want.
Oh. Well, sort of. So that means that this is at range 4, speed 6, power 1. At range 3, speed 6, power 2. And at range 5, speed 6, power 2.
Right. Okay. because
If you
you
play the boost, you must push or pull, and it has a printed range of 4. So if you start at 4 and you play the boost, you miss.
okay.
So
So
don't do that.
if what you're trying to do is hit with this at range 4, you would not be able to also play the boost outside of having a weird boost setup already in play. And why are you cashing out with a 1 damage attack?
Right.
Okay.
This is pretty important because at range 4, it is really easy for an opponent to say, "I'm going to play focus," or sweep or whatever, and you go, "Okay, I guess we trade." At range 3 or at range 5, if they have any inkling that this card exists, they can also just say like, "Okay, I'll play a focus. Now you can't push or pull me, so you're just going to leap toward me and take a bunch of damage."
Right.
So you need to like be aware of how that works and be cautious if you're going to try to hit with it from ranges 3 or 5.
Okay.
Um, I often want to just pop it at range 4 for a hit, pop it when the opponent is cornered, so that I get the boost, but I don't have to worry about. I push
Oh,
them.
right, because you already mentioned it because you could just push into the corner, and that makes it easier to get both things at once.
Exactly. Or if I have another boost already in play, then I'm quite willing to say, okay, well, I have something, and now I can play this to fix it if I made a mistake, or I can not use this, or like I have tools and options.
Right.
Generally Exceed doesn't emphasize being able to make decisions during strikes, but we have a lot of cases in Seth specifically where you're
Right.
going to be making movement or other decisions during a strike. So having one boost already means you have the freedom to decide how you want this attack to play out.
Right. Okay.
Except that you'll always end up hurtling toward your opponent because you're Seth.
You're Seth,
So
and
you'll lose to
you have this advance afterward anyway. You still can't use it to dodge most things meaningfully most of the time.
Yeah.
So this also is just like at range 4, up against some not you Ryu, but characters with
Well,
unguarded projectiles, even fairly fast
you,
ones.
you can initiate and it covers Ryu's Hidoken, even his
Sure.
P6.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fast
against most
dives.
characters, it is a good defensive option. Yeah.
Right. And that is at cross purposes unless I'm in this position with installing it as a boost. But
Right.
it doesn't seem like I need that much help installing it as a boost. Because
Right.
I can just play these boosts. Um,
Correct. You can play the boosts in various
so
ways.
so if I am at range 4 and I need a defensive option that specifically covers a pretty fast thing, it's here for me. I don't need it to install the boost, so I can just use it for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is also fine to use it in the more niche case of I'm at range 6 or greater, and my opponent is pinning me down with projectiles. So let's close the distance by 4. Sorry, wrong way. Because I pull and then I miss and then I advance. But now
Right.
we're at range 2 and I have this, which is very good at range 2.
Right. So it's a more expensive kind of fiddlier way to dodge a projectile, but even faster than Dead Space is.
Yeah. But you'll only be doing that on defense because if it's your turn, you will almost certainly just say, okay, advance 3 to take another action.
Right.
Like let's just start there. And now we're at range 3 where I can play.
Right.
Probably. If you could hear something weird just happens, but it could happen. All right, so having a speed 6, even though it does basically no damage, is valuable. The range situation can make it awkward, but I've already described how you really have a lot of ways to manipulate your positioning,
right?
In particular, so you should be able to work around that. But yeah, the fact that it has a feature that is not possessed by other things, i.e., being above curve, is why I would actually put it comparable to piercing penetration, even though I think the value you get when you play this is about 7 times higher than the value you get when you play this.
Right, sure. Even with the sustained boost, it's not going to match 7 damage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's captive segment. I've already discussed Vanish Confusion, and actually I've said pretty much all I can about this because it really is just the range 4 dive paradigm.
Right.
There is no way to make it a mid speed. I guess EX with +1 power, it's 7 power. But don't EX this; it has Soul Oath on it.
Sure. And even though it installs Soul Oath, it doesn't install the other copy of Soul Oath.
Yeah, it will install 1 Soul Oath, so you're still throwing 1 away.
Don't do that.
I guess if you have Superior in play, you're allowed to play it EX, which is the boost that makes anything EX, by the way.
There you go.
For clarity. But yeah, there's not much more to say about this as an attack shape. It does have the really comical niche case of at range 1 you can dodge focus, I guess. Right. But so does this, and this one hits.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. So I mean like range 4 specifically dive on a character who doesn't have a lot of damage. That's like adequate. Uh
Yeah.
Install Soul's Oath, that is clearly more than enough. It sounds like most of the time I would just boost this, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's because it requires you to hit. And
Yeah.
if at range 4 I play this and they play cross, most people aren't going to be too sad if they play cross and you play dive and you're here, they're cornered at range 3. You're like, all right, cool,
Right.
I'm in a good position. Wait, never mind, I discarded Soul's Oath. I'm not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Not actually
I'm not
worth
gonna go there anymore.
basically any positioning change.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that was yeah, that was not worth the cost that I paid to do it.
Right.
So you would rather just play the boost at some
Right.
point.
Now that we've come back around to this card D, I remember on the Byakuya lesson that there was kind of like some complicated like not like brinksmanship's not the right word, but the way that you do or don't sustain Soul's Oath on Byakuya in particular was interesting to me. You have 4 copies of it. You are actually losing life if you don't use it over and over again. Is
Yeah.
and that's like a relevant consideration for him. Is Seth's play patterns with Soul's Oath in play because they seem like kind of more proactive than Byakuya's? Is that like less of a consideration?
Yeah, you are expecting not to sustain any given Soul's Oath more than once.
Right.
Um, if you if the first strike after you play it, you didn't need it because your opponent stunned you or because you uh, just won the strike without needing to use it, that's great. But you had a whole turn there in which you should have been able to find something that you could use to capitalize on this for value.
Right.
Um, once again, I have a suggestion. Um, like if you couldn't find something in that amount of time, it'd be pretty surprising because there's a lot of good ways to make use of this. And at worst, you can just be like, okay, I expect that the next turn after this, I'm going to care more about this position than that one. So if I'm going to hit you at range 2 or 3, let me put you at 3. Um, you don't want to spend much life, and that's actually as much to do with the shape of the character as it is with the shape of the play patterns. You just don't have much margin on life. Like you're trading
Mm,
not very well a lot of the time. You're reliant on clobbering somebody with 6 or 7, at least once, ideally twice,
okay.
because again, Carry Count is installed when you play Piercing Penetration. Um, but your damage is generally low, so you're like, all right, I'm gonna be trading down a lot. In the game I played earlier today, I went, okay, I'm at like I don't know 14, they're at like 21. That's a significant deficit, but I haven't played any Carry Kaons yet. This is fine. Like
Right.
we're basically
I
even.
can kind of mentally edit in that they're 7-ish life lower than they really are, maybe more.
Yeah. And if I think in the more conservative term of just like, well, I don't think I can land this attack, I'll just play this boost from hand, which I don't like doing, but I have done. I'm like, all right, well then I'm probably setting up an EX Cross or EX Grasp or something like that where I'm guaranteeing my damage, but it's only +3.
Right.
Um, well, they'll still probably hit me back for some damage. It's just that I'll outtrade them. So now my margin is like, oh,
Right.
life totals aren't 7 closer; they are
There's
3 closer or
4-ish,
4
three or
closer.
four
Yeah,
closer, and that margin
that
gets
margin
eaten
means it.
into every time
Yeah,
you sustain a Soul's Oath. But also, like because of the shape of your kit and because of what you're trying to do with it, the temptation to sustain it seems like it's a lot less than it would be on Byakuya.
yeah. Like
Okay.
in general cases, so I'm like, man, I want to. I don't have spike, I don't have sweep, I don't have dive. I want to do something cool with Soul's Oath, and I have nothing else. Well, I could probably find this.
Mhm.
I can probably find the range 2 dead space. I can probably find the pull the opponent into the corner and cross or pull them closer and grasp, or just play range 1 focus and drag them past me because I needed that position more for next turn.
Right.
You can probably find something useful to do with it so that you're not spending life unnecessarily.
Sure.
It
And
is
so
still a bad
so
idea. Sorry.
no, finish your thought.
Okay, yeah, I feel like I shouldn't leave that one hanging. It is still a bad idea to look at the one card in your hand that has no other cards in it and play it as Soul's Oath because you can't rely on it working for just anything in a way that's productive.
Right.
Uh, but in most hands of like 3 or greater, and especially when also, how did you get to one card in hands? You're set anyway. Like you should have been drawing more cards, but in any hand of 3 or more, and especially in a hand of 5 or more, chances are you'll be able to do something with it.
Right. So don't be so like married to like the big obvious kind of like pay out high damage cards that Soul's Oath can enable or guarantee in some cases, that you get like stuck in your you get it stuck on the field and you just have to be sustaining it.
Yeah, that's no good.
Okay.
It is actually often pretty great if you play it and the opponent discards it. because you go, oh, cool, one fewer tech, one more of these.
Sure,
Um,
yeah. And it'll come
like,
back in your reshuffle because you didn't seal it.
yep. Like the opponent teching this is completely fine with you because it is not even the strongest, really, although it's again comparable.
Right.
Of your boost, you know you've got one, two, three, four, two copies each that are all I think of comparable power level. So they only get to get rid of so many, and this one, when used, goes away forever. So it's actually kind of the one that you most want them to just discard from play,
To just
even
get
though it
rid of
also is
for
the one that
you.
yeah lets you
Right.
beat focus at range one with spike, which is really nice.
Okay. So you're a character with very strong centralizing boost and low damage, and this we're talking anyway about like this one will go to your discard. Sometimes that means you can reshuffle because you have low damage. Are you fairly likely to reshuffle most games?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Like, and it's not just low damage; it's also how much you should be changing cards. You should be
Right.
looking
Definitely.
going
Yeah.
through your deck
You're
pretty
bleeding
aggressively.
through your deck to find the couple things that aren't low damage.
Yes, like
Okay.
you, if you've got three ultras in your discard, you should reshuffle that,
Okay.
and that's a like it doesn't really matter which three ultras. It's just like, oh, those are gone. I need them.
Right.
You know, the reason to not do that is if you're the remaining, you know, if you are three cards into your deck and the three cards in your discard are three ultras, I'll have to think about that one.
Right.
It's close. It's a decision, and that should tell you just
Start
how
looking for your good
yeah,
boosts and use them as quickly as possible so that you can justify reshuffling and get yourself out of that uncomfortable situation.
exactly. That's one of
Right.
those where I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to reshuffle probably now at less than 10 cards in,
Yeah.
counting from after my opening hand, of course. But
Right.
like, you care a lot about the good cards. You've got a lot of cards that are far more niche. It is totally fine to be reshuffling when you see that your quote unquote good cards are down.
Okay.
Um, and you know, I said earlier about the like relative value of things, but it's these. Uh, this is again because of how you work. You're not a grappler. This is not like a typical command grab where the threat of it is super important.
Right.
You will expect to be playing it. So it'd be a little weird if you didn't have at least one in your discard before you reshuffled, but I would not really put it on the same level as these, where it's
Okay.
like, oh, if three ultras are down, or if all of these and at least one ultra are down, is like roughly the ratio of importance that I would put on them.
Okay.
Um, like you probably should be considering reshuffling, and prior to that, you should be changing cards to get toward these things.
To get these awesome things, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So
Um,
that's vanishing confusion,
yep.
excuse me. More importantly, that's Soul's Oath. I think
Yes.
we're back around to Fastfall now.
We're back to fastfall. Yes. This this is a godlike boost. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's zero force special boost before advanced retreat one or two. Um, I can kind of just fly. Um, there's so much like the last one. There's not a lot more to say about the attack. It just doesn't really beat anything unless you play it on defense and the opponent played something that doesn't have guard or isn't speed 7.
Right.
I am pretty willing to just strike from hands, initiating sometimes because I'm like, hey, they're gonna play a sweeper of focus. I was gonna lose to that at some point. I'm gonna draw some cards.
Right.
Um, I'm not sure that's actually a good idea most of the time. Uh, that's if I like really don't have any sensible change cards options, but that's not very likely. And on your turn, you're probably better off playing the boost. The main reason that I end up in that state is going, okay, I want to play the boost from my hands at a greater range than 1. At range 1, I want this boost to set up a sweep or a spike, and I have none of those.
Sure.
So I guess I can play the attack. Like it has the notable property of you can defend at range 1 and it's speed 7, and that's good. But I think you should generally expect that you're going to play this as a boost, and whenever you play it as a boost, it's going to be good.
Right.
The iffiest time is when you're at range 1 and you don't have sweep or spike, and you go, well, there's no guard printed in my entire kit, so that's not great. They can play a grasp and I just lose. Of course, focus exists, but the value of confirming a focus is a little bit lower.
Right. I feel like this also goes up in value by some amount if you're up against like Tager, right? If you are trying to deal with either his 4 gauge ultra or his command grab, that is
Yeah.
like you actually care a lot about having a 7-speed defensive option
Yeah,
against
having
some
an extra grasp
characters.
in some matchups, having an extra grasp is really, really good. And in
Right.
those matchups, you won't even have to think about like, okay, if they strike at close range, I'll play this attack. If
Right.
in other cases, I will play this boost.
Right. Okay.
But you won't initiate with it in those cases.
Yep.
Um,
Sure.
yeah, the more I say it, the more I'm like, actually, I probably shouldn't initiate with this as much as I do, but it's fun.
Sure. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's the exact same. Like you like to draw cards. These draw you cards, and maybe you play them slightly more than you really should.
yeah,
Except that Exceed is fun. You should play it for fun.
yeah. So yeah, I probably play this attack. I probably initiate with this attack a bit more than I should. But it's terribly fun.
Right.
The hit effect does have a little repositioning on it. It's not considering how much positioning you have for yourself. It's not the most important thing. It is nice that it moves the opponents because everything else moves you, not counting Soul's Oath. So sometimes you'll be able to do something useful with that. Just that's up to the situation. I leave that to you. Like there's no general rule for what that's going to do for you. Just look at the board state and
Yeah.
decide.
Look at the board state. Look at your opponent's options.
Yeah. In most cases, I guess I'll give you this much. In most cases, you will like range 1 more than range 2, unless this is range more than yeah, no, that's accurate. So abyssal geometry is pretty funny at 2, and maybe you're holding a cross, in which case 2 is obviously better.
Right.
But yeah, like
Right.
you have things that hit at range 1. You don't really have things that hit at range 2.
Right.
You have this.
Short
The
of the
normal.
thing that you are actually probably going to whiff with at range 3 instead.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
That all
All
makes
right.
sense
I
to
think
me.
that's our attack breakdown.
Yeah,
Oh well,
that's all the attacks, all the boosts. More importantly, it sounds like all the boosts.
Yes.
There is a whole other set of cards. I forgot
Yeah.
about the giant
Got some other
sweep
cards
again,
over here.
D. There's a whole other set of cards over here, and I feel like characters who have pretty middling quality specials, for whom the normals might just be better, and crazy boosts. I feel like a lot of my attack utility is going to come from these cards over here.
Correct.
Okay.
So if I come back to describing him as a Swiss Army knife or a multi-tool, you've got a bunch of little tools, and you've got some knives.
Right.
So like these are where you're going to get a lot of your more consistent value. So keeping in mind that we are able to attach a little bit of movement to a lot of things, right? There's a reason I kept harping on this.
Yeah.
A spike with Soul's Oath or with Fast Fall loses to almost nothing. Among the normals, a range 1 spike with Fast Fall loses to exactly dive, and the opponent didn't hit you.
Right.
You might have traded with a cross or an assault, but you didn't get stuns. You moved to where you wanted, and you hit them. And if they play a sweep or a focus, which is a pretty common range 1 play, they will die. By the way, sorry, just pretty common range 1 play. But if you have Fast Fall in play, people will look at the range 1 and go, "Oh, you're going to play a spike."
Right.
This is fine. They probably can't do anything about it.
Right.
They will just try
this
to
is the
trade people
telegraphed
they can.
option, but against many characters in many circumstances, it doesn't matter that it's telegraphed. Eat 5, ignore armor.
Yeah. Like, given that you have 2 fastballs and 2 Soul's Oaths, at some points you'll probably get to play a spike that they can at most trade with by playing some faster thing.
Right.
And at some point you'll probably get to play a sweep that can't be avoided. And for your sake, I hope that you got it to deal at least 7 damage because it feels really good to do that.
Yep.
But yes, I've described one of my favorite cases, which is you got a range 1 to 4 power 7 sweep, which just isn't going to lose to anything.
Yeah, that's a good card.
Yeah, there's a lot of other cases where you can say I have any of my boosts in play except possibly Carry Kaon, and we're at ranges 1 to 4. Cool, sweep works. It hits. Like I have 1 extra space of movement on it, and that's all I need.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I will say most commonly at 1 or 4, less so at 2 and 3, just because it's a lot likely that people play things that beat sweep then.
Yeah, you have dive that can actually hit you back in addition to dodging.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
On that note, dive is really amusing. There's going to be a lot of cases where you can make it hit at weird ranges, where you go, this, my opponent is here. I can play a dive to get out of the corner, or I can jump out of the corner and then dive back into the corner to hit the opponent. Although you did leave yourself in the corner, so maybe think about it.
Maybe
maybe don't do that. But maybe do. I don't know what your hand looks like. You have other uncornering tools as we've discussed, so
Right.
maybe that's fine. It can hit at range 2 in a lot of cases. It can hit at range 3 because it normally can. And it can potentially cross up at range 4, depending. The main case I will caution against is trying to hit with dive at range 5 with anything but Soul's Oath, because they can just play a focus and
They
you
just
will
focus,
not
sure.
be able to push or pull them, and now you're
Right, and
sad.
they use whiff.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, you
it
whiff
is
and
still
get hit
fine.
too.
Yeah, it's still fine to sorry, I'm specifically talking about Stitch Diamond, I guess. It's kind of fine to fastfall here because you can advance 2 and advance 3, and
Right.
that's cool. So if you've got 2 range 5, I would rather look at my gauge and see if I can count to 3, and then
Right.
play Distant Frontier.
Right. Sure.
But yes, it is also just worth noting that this has a fantastic boost on it. You don't have, like most season 6 characters, you don't have any particular way to gain hand information, so your naming a normal is not going to do a lot. But you have at least one extra advantage source. It's not unlikely that you can chain readings where you can see their hands, gain advantage, reading something, make them lose a strike.
Right.
I would say I don't actually do that, but I think that's a viable line of play.
Okay.
What I actually do is I say 5 is a number that I need more of in my life, and I play this as an attack.
Right.
Often with this.
I feel like an impactful reading on a character who is like low or spiky damage could be very useful. Except that one of the things that you were probably hoping to land is one of these 5 damage cards.
Yeah, you could reading spike at range 3 and play this. If you don't, sorry, reading sweep.
Right.
If you don't know they have sweep, I don't know. I guess you can do that. I would rather be at range 3 and just strike with this.
Sure, because they're
And then
probably going to
hopefully play
respond
the
with sweep anyway, at least once.
Yeah, you're Seth. Like,
yeah.
They look at your kit and they go, "Oh, okay, I'll play sweep."
No, you know what you do, D. Here you go. So,
Let's go.
piercing penetration is only good when your opponent knows that everything loses to sweep. So you read sweep, play something else, and have them beat it. So later in the set,
now
you
they
can
learn.
play
Yeah.
piercing penetration.
You gotta condition them to teach them that if you play sweep, I'll lose. Even
Yes.
if I know you're playing sweep, I'll lose.
Yeah, it's the multi-game conditioning, D. That's what we got to do.
The perfect plan.
Yep. Okay.
Excellent. All right. Assaults is assaults. It is probably going to trade down against the slow, but so is everything else in your life, mostly.
Right.
So it is totally fine to just play assaults or to play air dash. I don't think there's anything special about this with regard to Seth as opposed to anybody else, except that you have an ability that you shouldn't use on it.
Yep. Sure.
Because if assault isn't part of a mix-up with something else,
right,
then
what's the point?
You are going to be a lot worse with it. And if you're concerned about, especially at range 3, them crossing out, then you have forgotten what character you're playing. You're not really worried about people making range. You can make range too.
True.
Or you can reduce range, I should say. But yes.
Right. You dive the character.
So, you really are. I don't remember if I put the Seth dive in the diverse normals in the module, but I know we at least thought of it because he is dive incarnate.
Right.
All right. Superior is a fantastic boost. Everybody knows this because EXing is good.
Yes.
Part of the reason EXing is good for you is because you have all these great boosts, but sometimes you might want to play the attacks. And if you can play the attack EX, like this one notably, which is a lot better EX, I said you should never EX this attack unless it's EX because
you have superior because you'd be using up Soul's Oath, sure.
Yeah. So you can become above curve. You can waste your time. Sorry, 6 and 7 are not very different. So in most cases, you don't need that EX.
Hey, listen, the bang matchup sounds pretty rough for old Seth. I feel like maybe sometimes you need a 4-1-7 instead of a 4-1-6.
That is definitely possible. It is likelier that you will play fast fall or just wait for your abyssal sun immunity.
Sure.
I think you were speaking somewhat facetiously, but the bang matchup is actually
yeah. I just liked the you can waste your time. It made me laugh. So yes.
Yeah, it's usually not necessary to EX this. You're not going to hit any power breakpoints, and the speed breakpoint probably doesn't matter in most cases. But definitely. We got Bang, we got Ryu. There are people with fast projectiles.
Sure.
This one a little bit more justifiable in matchups where the opponent has like mid speeds like this. So me mentioned Tager earlier. Well, Gigantic Tager is speed 5, and Genesis Emerald Tager Buster is speed 6. So EX this actually does matter. This one, however, I don't care nearly so much about. Like, being able to play this boost multiple times. So I would rather save my EX for an attack that I want to play both sides of.
Right. You could just naturally EX this and not lose anything incredibly valuable like you are for Soul's Oath.
Yep. Why did you EX this? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't
No.
matter. That was silly. And now let me just show off the stars. Here are the well, it's really those two, but I'll note separately. I know I already mentioned that one. But here are my favorite EXs. EX Distant Frontier at range 4 is on curve. And at whatever range you're at, it's 7 damage. And I like 7. That's a good number. It beats Sweep.
Yep.
By the way, EX Sweep is 7 damage, and it turns out I like 7. 7's a good number. It beats Sweep. So unironically, I'm pretty happy to throw Superior and play either of these, including Sweep. Although Sweep is also often fine with this boosted blade, because that's also 7 power. So this chain into this is not uncommon in my experience.
Okay.
When they survive this one, which they often don't.
Right.
As for these, nobody expects this. By the way, sorry, you're not playing this in order to make Piercing Penetration beat anything other than Focus that it didn't already beat. You're playing this because they will reasonably expect you to be playing EX Assault at range 3 or EX Dive.
Right. So they're going to play the Sweep, and you're like, aha, I have a thing that beats Sweep already, but now you're playing it.
Yes. Yeah. Or the EX Focus or something, or not EX Focus, the regular Focus. They rarely play EX Focus.
Right.
Which, by the way, this does beat Focus normally just because they don't hit back. But man, if you crush Focus, as Seth, noted high damage character, that they'll remember it.
Again, the mental
and then
damage.
They will forget it and lose to the next game for some reason, which I can't
for some reason
anyway. Yeah, and then this is just okay. Now you are likelier to hit, and it's really, really important that you don't whiff this because that's a Soul's Oath.
Yep.
And this is, hey, I have an actual DP now. It took me a fastball and into cross, but I managed to get a speed 8 attack.
Right. Okay.
I guess that works. So these all have important uses. I find them less compelling than making the number 7.
Sure.
And sometimes the number 4, but yeah. Oh, sorry. Cross is a boring attack. It's good. But like the case where you use it is the case where you get three free damage in. Sorry, tripping over that. Because you decided you were going to play a cross unless you used your ability and your opponent played a dive and then you didn't get 3 free damage in, which was silly of you, but whatever.
Right.
I don't find this particularly compelling. It might be that you need to do that. Okay, that's fine. I won't judge you. I would much rather do something much cooler by making my numbers on my things that I am going to play anyway better enough to win an interaction that I otherwise wasn't going to.
Right. And you have plenty of movement outside of cross.
Yeah, you have plenty of movement, so you don't need the retreat as much in that regard. You don't have much evasion.
Fair.
This is the way that you retreat out of the range of something. This is the normal that you use to beat Sweep.
Right.
Unless it's Spike. But yeah. So those cases, like, there are good reasons to play cross. You are a fast mobile, low damage character. You will be playing some crosses. I think that the breakpoints you hit on, especially Distant Frontier, and your own Sweep, when there is any boost attached to it, are nutty. So I particularly like them. You can also potentially make a really awesome dive. If you get to initiate the turn after Superior, then your ability makes for a particularly stupid dive. But like at that point, your opponent dug their own grave.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I assume also that we talked briefly about reading and dive. We talked briefly about cross and Superior. With these two, is the attack is just way too important for me to really consider the boost, it sounds like. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
That's not entirely fair. I have certainly played mix up.
Okay.
There are cases where this is what you need. They are you use it, value this like it's an ultra. Like don't change cards this in well, okay, that's a bad example. Hold on. Value this like it's an ultra that's only worth 1 force.
Right.
You shouldn't be throwing this away because you are so likely to be able to confirm it and get a good quote unquote free 5 damage off that might also disable some important defensive button that they were hoping to play.
Sure.
It is You have a bunch of movement tools. You are likely to get a spike that they cannot do anything about. Value that pretty highly. Similar story for sweep, except the boost is even less important because it just doesn't do anything you care about in your attack shapes for the most part.
Right. And sweep is awesome.
And sweep is awesome. King of the
Yep.
normals, as we know.
Yep.
Uh,
And then for assault, I assume this is just like a kind of you'll use it when you need it.
Yeah, you use it when you need it.
Okay.
Like it's like, okay, I could move or retreat 2, take another action, advance 3, take another action, or I'm fine just moving 3 and or closing or retreating 3 and passing the turn. That's fine. You can do that.
Right.
It is certainly an efficient movement tool. It's what it's designed to be, and that's fine.
Okay.
On that note, it's certainly an efficient movement tool. You can use it that way. That's fine. As an attack, it's not giving you anything that you wanted. It doesn't have damage, and you already have a different speed 7. That's almost always better to hit with.
Right.
As for the positioning effect, you have a lot of ways to move, although you don't move the opponent that much. So, this is your much less exciting grasp. That this is your more exciting grasp, but it doesn't cost you a fast fall, and so sometimes you'll play it. You'll play it when you need to answer something specific, much like cross. Like you'll play it when you need it when you need to, and I expect that you will find those situations often enough that I don't need to highlight anything. But grasp is not a card that you should be excited to play. In particular, as Seth.
Sure. These are role player normals.
Yeah. You will probably play that boost more often just because you don't need what that attack is doing all that much.
Right. And card draw is good, and so is movement.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I did forget one thing to note. Sorry. These are your premier payouts for Carry Kaon.
Sure.
These 3 cards.
Okay.
It's only +3 power on this, but people are like, it's pretty hard to beat a focus unless you are trying to beat a focus.
Yeah.
And that's pretty meaningful. These are often very telegraphed, and depending on how exactly you play this attack or this boost, you will often find that you need to make value out of this boost on your opponent's turn, because you initiated with piercing penetration, because that's the way it beats sweep. Please keep that in mind. Please don't respond beating sweep.
Do not respond.
Yeah, don't do that. Responding with this loses to everything I can think of.
All attacks.
Yeah, everything that hits beats this if you are responding with it.
Right.
So don't do that. But yeah, so you're either initiating with it or you're boosting it. Either way, your opponent is initiating. It's a lot harder to justify responding with on curve or under curve. Depending on the board state, you might still do that. If you have EX Grasp, you might do that, although then your EX Grasp is still 7 power, it's not 8 power, right?
Because
this hit effect
you're losing
is
a replacement effect, right? You're losing some of the value of the EX, but hey, speed is speed.
But but speed is speed, and you needed it, so that's fine.
Right.
I will often put it on focus because the drawbacks of this boost just don't matter on focus.
Sure.
In most cases, if I don't kill my opponent because of it, I guess I'm a little sad. But if I don't kill my opponent because of it, that was a good reason to play this and then save my fast cards.
Right. Right. Yeah. Then you can.
My opponent's on 1 life. That's what these are for.
Makes sense. Okay. And I mean, focus is already like it doesn't really need a huge amount of sales pitch because it's focus and it's great.
Yep, it is a fantastic normal, and you will play it and it will be very good. It's not as it's not going to hit breakpoints in the same way as far as the +4 power Carry Kaon or this makes a 7 power sweep, but you can still get value, and you need every bit of value you can get.
Right, and this is also like a really strong defensive option that you can play when you don't have a boost up.
Yes, which is notably valuable, especially if the opponent does something that lets them have plus power and strike, and you go, wow, I have no cards that look good in this situation. Well, focus is fine.
Sure.
That's also when you probably are going to end up playing a block if your opponent doesn't have anything that you really care about tech hitting.
Right.
Yeah, this is one of these, like, when you need this defensive option, you have it.
Right.
And same story with tech hit, of course. When you need that, you have it. Diffuse whatever thing your opponent has played that will ruin your day, or just play the block when you need to not die, because again, attrition is your enemy. You are going to be losing life steadily.
Right.
Just don't lose all of it.
And I assume it kind of goes without saying, maybe you should get your blue pencil out again, that Veil Off doesn't really exist.
Oh, wow, thanks. Yeah. Didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the urge to play this Seth is even the incredible value I'll get out of this Exceed mode probably isn't strong enough for me to give up a focus.
Yeah, sorry, I need to correct you. The value you get out of this Exceed mode, or sorry, no, wait, this one, this Exceed mode. Yes, there you go. Because you spend a gauge and you get an ability.
Right.
That's how Exceed modes work, right?
Yep.
It is significant, but it's also a 1 gauge Exceed. So you won't have trouble getting it without using Veil Off. Do not waste your focus on Veil Off. Far too valuable an attack for that.
Yep.
It deserves better.
Makes sense to me. Okay.
All right, that's our normal run now.
So that's our normals. It sounds like we're going to be using them a lot. It sounds like we're going to be digging for them a lot too. So the general Seth game plan, boiled way down, is not quite boost special, play neutral, or play normal.
Not quite.
There are situations, notable important situations where I'm going to be playing my specials as attacks. But I am definitely a character who is looking to make my normals better rather than like my normals are filler offense while I set up for payouts and specials. Like I'm not that kind of character at all. Normals are really important to me.
Yeah. Normals are where it's at. You have the most reliable, though I think this is true. I'd have to actually like run it down, but you probably have the most reliable spikes in season 6.
Okay.
You probably have the most reliable sweeps in season 6. You can make those things hit at a lot of times that other people's couldn't.
Right.
And you hit with 2 sweeps and 2 spikes, and your opponent is almost dead.
Yeah.
So you need to make up the rest of the value by not dying to all the stuff they're doing to you, which is where you're going to be doing your more shenanigan-oriented finesse stuff.
Right. And that's going to be all of the asterisk that I mentioned, right? Like all of the times that the you're not digging for your normals because you need to actually like evade something tricky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The cases where you go, wow, I really have to use my ability to play +1 speed focus because it's exactly the thing that I need during this exact strike. It can happen.
Sure. Okay. Mm-hmm. So keep an eye out for that. But when we talked earlier about like what to focus on to get better at Seth first, the thing that's going to be most impactful, it kind of is boost special, play normal, and then start looking very hard for situations where that paradigm is going to make you lose value because you'll find them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Boost special, play normal, play ultra.
There you go. Yeah.
There's your storyline. That's what's going to happen.
Makes sense to me. Okay. Any other sort of like high level strategic considerations for Seth? Anything else you wanted to talk about before we move on to counterplay?
Usually, because of how your boosts work and how attack shapes work, investing more than one movement boost in a strike is a bad idea.
Okay.
The first one is more impactful than any later ones will be.
Right.
The main exception to this is if your opponent counters the first one with some other boost of their own, then you may need to bolster with some other second thing. But in most cases, that's only going to happen if you started with like these, because these are kind of +1 to -1 defective range. And your opponent plays +1 speed or +2 speed, and you go, oh, this isn't really quite enough anymore. Now you have to do something else. These are much likelier to have cases where you go, well, this is kind of +2 effective speed. And what this says is, if I'm at range, this is basically plus speed. If my opponent plays speed, then I go to melee, and now I have melee, sweep, and spike that are really good. So, okay. But yeah, you're stacking more than one of these, unless you're stacking exactly 2 of these because you want to crush their focus with your sweep, or play your EX Assault for 7 power, or some other such thing. Usually, you shouldn't be stacking them. Like, it's not efficient to do that. That's the last note that I can think of.
Even if the first one came on your opponent's turn, it just doesn't matter enough to double the value up.
Yeah. In most cases, that's where I'm taking my turn to change cards and saying, I've got a boost in play. I'm comfortable. Back to you. Let me get some cards that are actually worth playing.
Right. Okay.
All right. Let's do counterplay.
Let's talk. So these are the Seth things. My opponent knows the Seth matchup, has seen this this lesson, actually does know about piercing penetration.
Yeah. They took an hour to let Seth get to 1 gauge because their opponent stopped the game so that they could watch the video up to this point.
Right, of course. Yeah, that's how it actually happened. Of course. So what is my opponent doing to stop me when I'm playing Seth? Okay.
All right. So it is obviously not that simple for the very reasons I've described, it being important to Seth that he has a card that beats sweep. Right. But all of the things that I've described about how Seth needs to play around his opponent knowing his weakness, that's real because they're predicated upon Seth having a real weakness. He
Sure.
is Dive Incarnate without the upside. He
Right.
is somebody who's constantly, with his jet propelled genes flying
Gotcha.
toward you at top speed. You will very often be able to play a sweep like, or depending on what set you're from and what boost you have access, some sort of bonus guard, and then say whatever he throws at me, I'm just gonna play, assaults and hit him back, and it's fine because he can't stun me. He's Seth.
Right. He's Seth.
To be clear, not because of this, just because his numbers are low.
Just because he's Seth everywhere else
Yeah.
in addition to his character ability.
Yeah, like he's not going to use this in any time that I should assume that Seth will not use this when I can take advantage of it. Though obviously keep your eyes open. If the Seth player gives you an opportunity to use it, but
Sure.
probably he will use this to play cross, dive, just those things. Yeah, probably just those things. I'm trying to remember if there was another one that I feel like it was just those two things. That's like the default line. Oh, and focus, I guess.
Focus. Yeah.
Yeah, which is not even particularly significant. It's just I more often find that people misplay if I do that.
Right.
So, but yeah, your hardest part is going to be looking at when Seth has a boost in play and you go, oh no, everything's online and I'm horrified. The way that you need to take heart and bolster your confidence is remembering that everything is online, but none of it's particularly good.
Right.
You can go, okay, he can hit me with a range 2 grasp. I'll take 3 damage. That's a little sad. If he hits you with a range 2 grasp, by the way, he still loses to sweep.
Yep.
Because there's nothing he does that's going to do that. He has no boost combination. Well, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Never mind. If he has all 4 of these in play, he can stun you. But
he can stun you with grasp, sure.
Yes, but yes, most of the things that you can be like, oh, he's threatening this, are between low value to medium value and generally underwhelming.
Mm.
What you need to be most cautious of is getting hit by the call out and then the follow up.
Right.
So the case where you lose to piercing penetration is not unlikely to happen about once per game. You don't want to get hit by piercing penetration and then for him to get off clean with a follow up because you tried to come back at him and then he played EX cross,
right,
or something. I'm not example because you're presumably at range 3, but if he gets full value out of the attack and the boost, that's 14 life. Really, that's probably 6 life that you lost that you didn't need to.
Right, you can come back from piercing penetration, but probably not the whole combo.
Yeah, and that is notably dangerous. You should also, we're assuming you know the matchup, so you know this, but you should also be extremely aware of the importance of these 2 normals with every boost he has.
Right.
To the point that because of how high damage these are and how reliable they are, he's threatening everything, but he wants to play these.
Sure. If you're going to call out one specific option, it's going to be these, and that means you just dive over him.
Yeah, you can just dive over it. Maybe you have some way to stun a sweep. I don't know what your kit looks like, but at baseline you can dive over it, and he's going to be really sad.
Yeah, you're still bad guy. You throw Fafnir, you're feeling okay.
Yeah. At that point, Seth has a problem, which is he had a boost in play, and he played one of his strongest attacks.
Right.
And now he's out that boost and that attack.
Right.
And, do that a couple times, and Seth is starting to really feel pinched for damage, even though, again, numerically it doesn't actually make sense. But that is the case of it.
Sure.
So look at his range tools and recognize that they're not real range tools. He will always be flying toward you. You can play focus, you can play sweep. If you think that the mix-up is real, if you think that he has something that he's going to be using that doesn't lose to sweep, that's when you play focus, because now you have 2 armor and you draw a card.
Right.
It's just the more conservative side of the mix-up where you go, of the defensive line, right?
Right.
Not mix-up. When you have things that say discard a booster in play, these are all good options. Strangely, I think you shouldn't discard Soul's Oath. Soul's Oath is fantastic. It's an incredible boost. It's very strong. Also, he only gets to use it twice. He can use these up to 4 times each.
Sure.
So knocking one of these down and saying that he only gets to use it once, especially because of the interactions that change with these, with the notable exception of no, actually, no, I don't think there's an exception, specifically this one. These don't enable range 1 spike, but both of these do.
Right.
And this one, he will use, and it will be awesome for him. This one, if he doesn't use it, he might actually spend a life on it. And although it's debatable whether or not we're now relying on the opponent to make a mistake. It's still a thing where the value that he's getting from this is diminished relative to the value he would be getting off of this.
Sure.
So I like discarding these from play.
Okay.
Other than that, he, yeah, like his expected value on his attacks not super high. His damage not super high. He loves his normals and he's very good at playing them. He loves these boosts and he's very good at playing them. So
Right.
your job broadly is to play sweeps, initiate when he doesn't have boosts, and when he has boosts, don't be afraid of the world. Look at what he most wants to play and then deal with that.
Right.
Um,
And then he doesn't have a boost anymore, and now beat him up.
yep. Because once you're playing like card to card, you probably out card quality him.
Sure.
Like you can look at all these specials, line them up against your specials, and you probably have more stats than him.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and like again, our training dummy here is Ryu. Ryu is like, oh my
Unusually
god.
well
Yeah.
statted.
But even without him as our training dummy, probably most characters are gonna be able to kind of push Seth around a little bit.
Yeah, he is reliant on using his tools very effectively. Life is a struggle because you have the one card that is the other side of the mix up. Everything else is going to lose to kind of similar looking things,
Right.
which means a lot of winning as Seth is effectively scraping value out of every interaction.
Right.
And that means if he ever cleanly loses something big, it's a nightmare for him to crawl back up. Let's see. Anything else? Of course, he folds under speed. I feel like that was kind of obvious, but I didn't
Sure.
make it
No
explicit.
guard
So yeah,
anywhere. That stun immune button is not really a trading tool.
Yeah.
Just boost up and run him over, or just be faster than him.
Yeah, he's pretty reliant on narrow margins for stats and especially speed. If you have any kind of speed in your kit, cool, play it. He is very sad.
Because of how like range sensitive all of his stuff is, especially without boosts. Is he like? It seems like his wild swings are like awful.
Oh yeah, terrible. Yeah.
Is he particularly vulnerable to like the sort of like pressuring like maybe like a Giovanna who can just keep on striking into him over and over again?
Yeah, if you can get early pressure on him, especially like one of his premier counter pressure options is when he goes, okay, I really just need like any sensible normal focus block cross that is a defensive tool, and to get one gauge, and then
Right.
I'll have this boost in play, and then a lot of problems solve themselves because if I get to play this attack, I'm not immune, or I'm stun immune. If I had some other boost in play, that's great. If not, I now have a boost in play, and I can, if I'm really pressured, I can make space by discarding it and then do something else, and now my opponent's off my face, and I have whatever the heck I want.
Right.
If he never gets that gauge or he never gets this in play, like he's kind of got nothing going on.
Okay.
So his card quality is such that if you're pressuring him, if you're rushing him down, he is likely to fold as long as he didn't start with like gauge. So
right. And the
yeah.
earlier in the game you can do that, the less time you're giving him to curate his hand and actually find those defensive options. So rush him down early on, and then Seth's counter to that counterplay is like change cards more than you're comfortable with. Change cards incredibly a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's half of it. There's actually an interesting thing that emerges in that kind of matchup, because that is actually the kind of matchup in which it is likely that Seth can get unusual value out of his ability, because he can then do the advantage chaining things and say,
he can
all
kind
right,
of like ping pong back and forth.
Yeah, he can use his ability more often to say, I'm going to ensure that I land a hit without getting surprised by my opponent's defensive tools and reposition in some valuable way. Like, and the way that characters like that, Giovanni and Sea Viper are often other kit shaped, means that he can use this often more effectively in those matchups and just say, I got what I needed out of this. So if you are the opponent in those matchups, you need to be very conscious of like what his movement looks like so that you can catch him, because something that may easily happen is that he does this to go to range 3 and you say, cool, I knew you were going to range 3, here's my dive.
Right.
Like be ready to catch him out with his unusual movements, which are mostly just advanced 3 admittedly, when he does this, if he's doing that. But yeah, that is this ability is very niche. Those are the matchups in which I found it to be the most useful, because the characters who are the best at pressuring are often ones who are not good at being pressured. They do not like it when the opponent gets to take a bunch of turns. And
definitely.
so he can say, "Oh, you're one of these. All right, cool. Let me just advantage chain you a
Right. I
bunch."
actually have a character ability that's not Soul's Oath for a second here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, any other counterplay notes?
Let's see. Uh, yeah, his wild swings are indeed garbage. So we've thought to note the range sensitivity in particular. If you, as the opponents, hover around 2 to 3, the problem you're going to run into is that this is 3 and this is 3.
Right.
Um,
Kind of.
but most other things turn off.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays this at range 3. It doesn't hit at range 3.
Right.
Um, so at range 3, if you're initiating and you have stuff that moves yourself, you are probably in very good shape. At range 2, his kit falls apart. So if you are competent at range 2, he's playing normals or
Right.
sometimes this. Once he has a boost in play, then his range 2 looks a lot like his range 1, which is to say that he can pull you into range 1. But if you have a decent range 2, you shouldn't let that scare you. Like,
Sure.
your card quality is still probably better than his.
Yeah. Your
So if you
range
have
two
a
is probably
favorite
better than
range,
his range 1 or range 2.
yeah, like, and you should be expecting normals, which means that you should be doing normal counterplay things.
Sure.
If you expect the grasp, you play the focus.
Right.
If you expect the sweep, you play the spike, and so forth. I think that's probably all I have in mind regarding counterplay.
Okay. Well, so at this
Yeah,
point,
it's not very easy to pressure his resources just because he's very willing to go through his cards like water.
right,
But it is hard, or it is easy to pressure his options because he needs particular cards to get value. A lot of
because
his
he's
deck
very
he
willing
will
to go
be
through his cards
burning
like
through.
water.
Exactly, same kind of thing.
Right. Okay. That makes sense to me. So that's Seth. That's the Seth game plan. That's how you stop the Seth game plan. He seems kind of cool, actually. Uh, I don't think I gave him a fair shot, so I'm interested to put it into practice later on. Um,
Yeah, I like him a lot. I don't. If his reputation is he's kind of low damage and he hits you with the pillow, well, yeah, you've seen that. That's true.
right.
Um, but if it's that he's not exciting, people are just wrong.
Yeah.
Like having a range 3 dodge and then having a range 3 nuke the sweep is just that's enough to make a lot of things fun.
Yeah.
And then he
I
has a bunch of movement shenanigans on top of that.
I think the actual problem is that his reputation is as far as people have gone into him. A lot of people, because like season 6 is a I think like many characters in season 6 are fairly unexplored in general. And I think Seth,
Mhm.
you can look at him, be like, I get it, and then
Yeah. Yeah,
bounce.
he does tell you what he does,
Yeah,
whispering and lies.
yeah,
So
yeah.
ignore the. I mean, look, you can't even see his lips, right? He's
It's
covering
true.
his face.
Yeah,
Ignore
really, he
him.
could be saying anything.
Uh,
So give him a
yeah, we
chance.
shouldn't believe what he says.
Yes, give him a chance. He seems more fun than people are giving him credit for. If would you recommend Seth to anybody in particular who likes another character, for example, segueing very subtly into the final segment of our lesson?
Yes. So, as I said, what I value or what I enjoy on the surface about Seth, like the stuff that I think is fun and entertaining and flashy, is you get to draw a lot of cards and you get to move around the board a lot. To quote a friend of mine from earlier today, uh, the Seth strategy is to complicate the board state so much that neither player actually understands the strike matrix.
Right,
You put enough movement effects in play, and now no one has any idea what's happening.
right, and then you
And
beat them in
that's
the scramble.
I guess we can do that later. I don't know. I just think it's so like there's the flashy and amusing stuff, but the thing that I really enjoy is how difficult and how technical it is to look at each tool and decide how I'm using each tool and going, okay, because I'm not throwing, as I said near the beginning, right? I'm not going to throw this boost in play and be like, cool, I've already won the next strike. I'm covered. I'm safe. No, I need to use everything deliberately.
Right,
I need to go, okay, this is in play because I know that I'm going to use it for this card or this card or that card. And based on what my opponent does, I'm going to deploy my specific answer based on that situation.
right,
Which is kind of a defensive mindset. It's not a rushdown mindset, even though he does not have the same kind of defensive utility as a character like Byakuya, where you have these movement boosts that are saying, uh, you know, hold off,
you
stay
can't
back,
strike
give
into
me
me.
some time. Yeah, you can't just
Yeah,
strike into me, and when you can strike into Seth, and therefore Seth needs to be the one who's playing smart and going, okay, here's how I respond when they strike into me, and here's what I do. And yeah, so he's got a bunch of interesting tools that are relatively specific. I like that a lot. So, amusingly, the first character that came to mind um, was Natalie from season 1.
Okay.
Uh, she is wildly unlike Seth in many ways. However, she has a kit of tools that are hard to use. She has a bunch of things where you look at and you go, that is this attack doing anything useful? And the answer is, if you are using it in the exactly the way that you need to use it for any given moment, yes.
Right.
Yeah, she does have also a big dumb damage bomb. It's a lot harder. Seth says, okay, once or twice per game, I'm going to try to hit you for like 7, and maybe I'll draw 6 cards. Natalia says, once per game, I'm going to hit you for 12, and hopefully I want to do it again, but by that time, the game's going to be over.
Right. And there's very little you can do about this 12, unlike the 7 you can very easily do about something that Seth's doing.
Mhm.
Hearing
If the
you talk
resource
about it, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
is if the resource decisions in particular are interesting to you, like Seth has easier resource decisions than a lot of characters just because he's in season 6. He's like, okay, Gauge is not particularly hard to get. I can spend it. I can go through my cards quickly with change cards. I'm very willing to go through a lot of my deck relatively quickly, and I don't use Gauge for a lot, so I can afford to spend it on change cards, and that's fine.
Right.
But if you want somebody who similarly needs to has a lot of movement, looks at their tools as being pretty narrow in their scope but powerful in their effects, and for whom resource decisions are a lifetime of suffering. And if that sounds like a good time to you, which it does to me, to be honest, Spectre Knight is extremely mobile, but highly committal with all of his resources. I think that last I checked, it was true that he has a reputation as one of the hardest characters in the game.
Yes.
Yeah, like he is reasonably technical in execution, extremely technical in resource management.
Definitely. And
And so
another character that people have sort of looked at and then moved on from, I think. Very similar to Seth, and like he is, I think, incredibly underexplored.
yeah, well, get back to it, y'all. Dig up graves.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's so Spectre Knight's a lot of fun, and like Seth, you kind of have all the movement you want. It's just that you need to use all of the movement that you have. So
Right.
you can't be flippant with your shenanigans. You go, okay, I'm doing this for this particular reason. This is why I'm doing this.
Right.
And then make sure you actually get value out of what you're doing. Let's see. I'm skimming for any other examples. Kind of. There's a little bit of that there. The problem is that there are several other characters. Well, okay. If you like the shape of if you want to fly at your opponent at top speed all the time, then you want rushdown characters. And rushdown characters just fundamentally don't have the same dynamics as Seth, where you are slipping in your setup and you're making specific answers happen. Rushdown characters want to be the ones pressuring the opponent, and Seth can seldom do that.
Sure.
If you really like the sound of the advantage looping thing, go play Noelle, go play Tau Kaka. Tau does an advantage loop, but Tau sure does move. So if you want to resolve all your movement effects without paying attention to anything else that's happening on the board, then Tau's a good fit.
Yeah, the Tau Kaka comparison also rings particularly true when you were talking earlier about like how much Seth is deciding things after reveal timing, which is kind of uncommon in
Yes.
Exceed. Tau Kaka is like
decisions during the fight.
Yeah, Tau Kaka is like based on that, where you're doing way more. You're doing much less to decide what you're striking with because you're a wild swing character, and all of that decision making is like offloaded to a little bit later on in the strike, which is very cool.
Yep. Yeah, she's literally right there on her face. She's got a decision you get to make during a strike, which is pretty unusual.
Right.
So these have the well, especially Tau has tons of movement. Especially Noelle has tons of aggression. If you like the I can advantage chain a bunch and I have extra speed, then Noelle is probably the character you actually want. Because Seth does not tend to actually play that aggressively.
Right.
Most characters in the game tend to have a little bit more going on with their mix-up than this is the one card I have that beats the thing that the rest of my kit loses to. So if for some reason that's what appeals to you, play Seth. I actually can't think of another character that you would want to go play. If you are looking for a character who has a mix-up because you are playing one who doesn't have any, then my guess is that you are playing one of our other season 6 characters. Where is Gordo? This man is not lacking in mix-up. I am not a Gordo player. I have played a little Gordo. I'm not a Gordo main, so disclaimer. If you play Gordo and then you go play Seth because I listed him here, and then you're like, this was awful, why did I do this? Blame me. I'm ignorant. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, my first two examples are my premier ones of every decision being interesting and technical. Life being a struggle because you have to win with minimal mix-up. And you are constantly living on the edge of looking at every card as I play this cool thing that gives me an advantage, except that I have to get all the value I can out of that advantage because otherwise I have wasted it, and
Right.
then I'm not going to have enough life to win
Right.
because I just don't have written numbers anywhere on my cards.
Your
Um,
that specific comparison, D, when you were talking about Natalia and like all my cards are tools and I can get advantage out of them in this specific situation if I set it up properly, reminds me a lot of maybe not Turnilouse in general, but like your Turnilouse and the way that you've described Turnilouse to me in the past
yeah.
as this. Basically, what I mean is like Turnilouse, if you sort of like are a little bit less interested in
If you're not
tr-
if you're not the
in
stats monster Eternalist.
yeah, but also not a Netherstorm focused Turnilouse, right? Like one that is more about the opportunistic sort of like kind of like mid-rangey like Street Fighter style play that you use him as, where like all of your cards are like just barely good enough to be useful without um sacrificing your engine to them.
Mm. Yeah, I will also give honorable mention to the characters. So I mean, we've mentioned him over and over and over. It's only fair to put Byakuya out here.
Yeah,
Um,
Soul's Oath is
if you
there.
if you like if you like Soul's Oath, hey, look, it's your little brother, Soul's Oath, but only two.
Yep.
Like this is the other Soul's Oath user. And if you particularly like just the movement options that you get out of that and out of your other movement boosts as Byakuya or as any character really, you're like, man, I wish I had more movement boosts. Cool, Seth has more movement boosts. That's what you wanted. That's what you got.
Right.
Every boost except Carry Count has movement on it. So please enjoy your movement boosts. Um, and then Pookie, who's another character who lives in the margin of going, man, everything is a little bit undervalued unless I use it well, and then everything's a little bit overvalue. Let me make sure I get the most out of everything I've got. At which point he really shines. Pookie has a very different overall gameplay structure because he's a transformation character.
Right.
But you know, if you like, yeah, if you like having a lot of interesting tools that are hard to use but interesting to use, and if what you care about in your resources is not whether you have them but which ones you have, that's more what's happening with Pookie.
Right.
Because Pookie drinks his deck, he can get a lot of cards. It's just he needs to be careful about which ones he uses for what. All right. Well, I shifted from you saying if you play this character, would you like Seth to if you play Seth, would you like this character?
Right. It's I feel like
But
it's the same
yeah,
question. There's and
it
also
is a simple
I have to mention that like this is one of the I keep using the word underexplored, but this is one of the most underexplored like collections of characters that we've brought out on this lesson. Um
cowards,
uh,
all of you.
yeah,
Um,
honestly, like it feels like whatever it is that Seth is tapping into that you can find commonality in with all of these other characters is something that like causes Exceed players to look and then look away. And I feel
that's
like because a
fair.
lot of
I
these
mean,
characters are really cool.
my favorite comparison is to these. So what drew me to Natali and to Byakuya is very similar to what keeps me in Seth. What
Yeah.
drew me to Seth was watching him resolve a move 6 and draw 6. You know what drew me to Seth was looking at literally being drawn to Seth and going, yes, okay, let's draw all the things.
Right.
But and Soul's Oath and Fastball, I'm going, okay, this is a lot of movement. This is highly entertaining. I'm just gonna zip around the board a lot and worry about the consequences later. But what has kept me there is the experience of looking at the character and being like, huh, now how do I use that?
Right.
Uh, and that's that, especially Natalia and Byakuya. are drawn together by that chord for me.
Right.
I
The
probably did. I tell
eternal puzzle
yeah.
of Exceed.
Mhm. Did I tell
Yeah.
did I tell you the Natali story and the Natali lesson? I assume I did, but I don't
I
remember.
believe you did. Yeah, like Natalia was like your first character, your first main, and
Yeah,
it came from her feeling sort of
it
difficult
came
to
from
work
me
with.
watching somebody else play her badly.
Yeah,
Now I say that it came from me watching somebody else lose with her.
right.
In the I believe either it was either the Alice matchup or the Melian matchup. Um,
Mm,
but it's still, you know, it was like the first game of Exceed that I'd seen other people play,
right,
and I was like, that's interesting. I wonder if I could make that work. I wonder if I
right.
could do that better.
And so you
Um,
get this experience with Seth, and that is interesting. And that's something that
yeah,
you can
yeah,
continue to play and iterate on a lot. It's a
yeah.
character who kind
Like
of resists being solved.
yeah, I genuinely love that in the game I had against Andrekia earlier, I found the weirdest ways and timings where we found man, it felt like a nonstop barrage of bizarre situations. It was like every turn something interesting was happening and some weird situation was coming up and we were making new board states happen that we had never seen before. It was amazing. And the
And
game I had before that, I managed to be in the situation where I was like, yeah, I need +1 speed focus. I need exactly +1 speed focus right now.
it's
Like
worth
how often does that
underlying.
happen?
It's worth underlying here. If people don't know somehow from the number of lessons of this at Exceed that D has done with me, he's played a lot of Exceed. He knows a lot about Exceed. If he's talking about novel and unique situations, there are like few people on the planet who have like a greater library of Exceed situations and Exceed like data points to choose from. And if Seth is giving D something new, that actually says a lot. Like that's
Yeah,
a very very relevant thing to be thinking about. Is like this is a character that you can play when you are as experienced as D and still find something cool about him. That's cool.
yeah. Exceed is fundamentally interesting, but yeah, I like the phrase resist being solved. There's a lot of cases where I go, I've got this tool and I need to use it to the best of my ability. At one of the games I played earlier today, it was the moment when I went, okay, I think I've lost this game, but I can't prove it. So let's play like I can still win. And I started to be way more careful with every decision I made, and I found uses for everything. And it was very, very satisfying
Yeah,
to look at this, mediocre kid of this underwhelming character and be like, oh wow, this character has such bad card quality. What are you supposed to do with it? And the answer is win. So go
right.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like that is honestly the best sales pitch you can ask for. I feel like for Seth. So yeah, please do go out and give him a try. Um, take this lesson into account and go figure some stuff out. Um,
Yes, live on the margins, live on the edge. Seth is, after all, an edge lord. Just look at him.
of course he is. Yeah. Um, well, Dee, thank you so much. This was a great lesson. I really, really appreciate it, as always. I mean, your time and expertise. It was great catching up with you. It was great talking again. Great learning from you. Um, so thank you so much. I really do
Thanks for having me.
appreciate it. Folks at
Yeah.
home,
Those of you who have been playing actively, please remember to take water breaks. Be respectful toward your opponents. Um, you should probably like stop the video and get back to the game. Your opponent's probably still
yeah,
waiting.
it's been a while at
Um,
this point. Like
yeah,
like if you're playing in tournament, you definitely have a game loss. Like somebody's informed the TO for sure. Like come on, let's be serious here. Um,
yeah, yeah.
that said, if you do want to just go right into watching another video, I'm not going to say no. So listen, engagement is engagement. I hope you did enjoy yourself, viewers at home. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned a lot actually, because it's Seth and there's a lot to learn about him. Um,
Mhm.
I will
And I
see you
haven't
all
learned
for the next
everything.
one.
Come back and teach me stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see you all
All
for
right,
the
we'll talk
next
to
one.
you.
All right, no, it's all good. It's all
Hmm.
good.
Drink water. Stay hydrated.
Please do. I will see you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.